All right, I'm live. Three, two, one. So I don't know what kind of conversation this is going to be yet. hmm Basically, I usually go on the JM podcast on Saturday nights, and this one got canceled. So I decided to spontaneously do a live stream myself. I probably should have announced it. Maybe I will. So the beginning of this is not going to be very formal for the first few minutes. In fact, if I have a viewer from the JM podcast, you can feel free to say what's up. Um, but we are going to be. I will be talking. I don't know how in depth about dreams and about uh, the language of dreams. That's something that I've been talking about for a few weeks. I haven't posted about it here, but I have been posting about it on my Instagram. I am the dream detective, Michael Suarez. I make dreams crystal clear. Um, I have at this point interpreted hundreds of dreams very effectively according to the dreamer. I have also written two books on dreams, and I'm working on my third book, Dream Detective Volume 2. So I'm going to wait for a few minutes, and I wonder if I should bother posting or announcing it, or whether I should just go through with the teaching. And I probably will just go through with it so that its main value will be if someone rewatches it, because I'm not going to go too far. At least I'm planning at this moment, but I am going to go in depth, which means I'm going to make crystal clear what's happening in a dream, why our dreams seem weird to us, how the dreams work sort of across the board for everybody, the genius of dreams. They're basically like hieroglyphs, and then each symbol, and then you look at the symbols together and they give you a definitive meaning. And we know this language. This is also one of the mysteries. We already know this language, but our fluency is in question, right? So when I say our fluency is in question, it means like you haven't been using your imagination that much, or your intuitive faculty is a bit rusty, something like that. All right. I kind of again feel myself going into flow. I'm self-debating, which is unprofessional, but there's nobody here, so um, about announcing. But I think based on the flow that I got, I just want to keep going. So, if you are listening to this, you already have a sense of what we're going to be talking about. It may be a few minutes, but we're going to be talking about dream language. One of the things I do, uh, which is part of the art and science which I participate, utilize, and explicate, is I make very clear how dreams work. Right? In fact, I like to make fun of dreamers and people in general when we disregard our dreams, or we're like, "Oh, I all these things happened in my mind while I was sleeping, and I have no idea what they mean. In fact, they're totally bizarre to me." Right? And then we would say, "Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird that you think your dreams are weird?" I'll say that again. Isn't it weird when we remember that dreams come from your own mind, that you uh, think your own dreams are weird? There is something certainly, absolutely to think about. The only thing that really stops us from thinking about it is that we do a casual acceptance, right? Like, oh, it's you know, we we accept the most marvelous things from you know. We could think of nature, we could think of the human mind, but certainly dreams are one of those, and we can take it for granted. no matter how strange it is. It's one of our gifts. So let me get up. Again, I really should have announced this, but when I was thinking about it, what I was thinking about was the people who go to the Jeff Mara podcast typically might somehow show up, but I probably needed to post it. And even now, let me see. Let me do this, okay? Faux person who's here, who's watching. I don't see anybody there watching, so. But if somebody rewatches it, all right, I'm going to go to Jeff's channel on YouTube, okay? And look at that. I'm on. I'm going to tell people I'm on. So first I'm talking to the Discord. So by the way, we have a Discord community, not me in this case, which people usually are talking about their own Discord. But the Jeff Mara podcast has a Discord community that I partake of. And we have discussions on, yeah. Okay, so we're going to go slow, okay? Because I'm doing this. All right. Okay. All right. So I'm doing that, and then I'm going to Jeff's page. So again, have patience with me. I'm tilting it towards the real value now at this point will be if we communicate with people. So like I'm adding to Jeff's announcement in the comment section. I should do a better job of speaking, telling you what's going on. Again, faux person who's watching. Oh, there is somebody here watching. Okay. Sorry that you're watching me announce. I'm letting people know that I'm live and I'm going to be talking about dreams and interpretation, dream language. So if you're interested in that stuff, that is my specialty, and that's what I'm going to be talking about probably for the next hour. If you're into dreams at all, I definitely would say, let's hang out because I'm going to go, I feel like I'm going to go deep. All right, so I'm doing a live stream on dreams for a little while. If we get, someone here and you have questions, I usually go on and interpret people's dreams live, so that's something I would be down to do. But I'll start with what I have here on the board, which again is the house as the soul of the dreamer. Such a fascinating subject. We're going to start on that in just a minute. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the story again of what I'm doing here is I decided somewhat spontaneously to have a live stream. Part of it is that pastor spirit in me. Hey, Mindy. Part of it is that pastor spirit in me where I felt like, well, there might be other people who are not in the chat, and maybe they'll be looking around like, where did Jeff go? Why is nobody here? Or they might miss their fellowship. And again, who know, like, probably that's also me, but I still have the community that I'm interacting with, and I think there's some people that don't, like some people that are not in the Discord, those sort of things. No, I'm not a pastor, Mindy, but um, behind this board, there is a picture of me that is very pastoral that someone got me as a gift. I worked at a Christian bookstore for 7 years, and we had art there. And hey, what's good, Jay? Um, and so they got me books and some other things on being a pastor. I never really could vibe with it, but I can vibe with it more now because of where I am spiritually, basically. What's good, brother Jay? That's my brother from another mother. um but yeah, so I'm gonna give it a few minutes to before I get here, okay? But thank you, by the way, again. Before I get deep, but I feel the vibe, I feel the spirit, so I am going to get deep, and I am going to, as always, deconstruct dream language, right? I like to say, Jay, you'll appreciate this, that the thing about dreams that is fascinating is like people be waking up and they're like, yo, I had the craziest dream last night. I had the weirdest dream last night. And then we're like, but it came from you. What do you mean? What do you mean it was weird? What do you mean it was bizarre? What do you mean you don't understand it? You don't understand it. It came from you. And of course, yeah, there's a reason why we don't understand it, because of the special language that it's in, the language of symbology, right? Um, so, yeah, I'm going to get some water first. But, and again, maybe we'll see if some people come in. But either way, I'm certainly going to do a examination of this idea. It's a very deep idea. The idea is, what does a house symbolize? People dream about the house. People dream about houses a lot. A lot of the dreams are somebody trying to get back home, right? That's an essential one. Yes, Dr. Malone. Um, and so, with enough experience of interpreting people's dreams, I came to realize, and then, be able to, because you should always be able to back up your reasoning. I came to realize that the house symbolizes the soul. It symbolizes the dreamer themselves, right? And the basic idea is that, like, why, right? Why is it the house? Because your dreams represent what you feel symbolically. Okay? So people have a certain feeling when they are home, right? When they are home, hey, I finally got back home. I'm resting in my own home, right? So that feeling is represented in dreams as a house. Okay? I'll address that in a second. Now, you notice when you go inside of a house that you will start to observe, like, the house tells you about the person who lives in it. Is it sloppy? Is it messy? Are there dishes undone? Is their bed undone? What kind of, do they have any kind of art on their walls? Do they have plants? Do they have books? Do they have a lot of technology? Right? It reflects what their soul is. Yeah. Likewise, when a house appears in a dream, it's commenting in that same way when you go inside the house on the dreamer. So we'll go back to that. So Jay, people don't realize a lot of our dreams come from what's going on in our life. Yeah, actually, that's one of the things that's kind of, quote unquote, it should be obvious. What you just said, Jay, I'm going to repeat that. People don't realize a lot of our dreams come from what's going on in our life. That is one of the secret cheats I use, even though it's so obvious, in being a dream detective. Because there's only two elements to it, really, to being a dream detective. The first element is there's certain symbols that our imagination uses in dreams. Right? And the second one is applying that to the life of the dreamer. Right? So the classic example I use is if you dream that you're in a maze, well, there's something in your life that's making you feel confused about direction. That's how it works. You have a feeling, it's an energy, it's an emotion, but that just simply means energy and motion inside of your body. The energy gets stirred up and it expresses itself in the spirit, what we call the spirit realm, right? You might call your mind, but it transcends that. It expresses in the spirit realm symbolically. Right? So there's always a connection, and if a person wants to be able to solve their own dreams, really all they got to do to at least get the basic idea is sort of be like, what am I going through, and what is the basic, what does that basically represent? Hey, Susie, I'm glad you're here, sis. So going back again, guys, I'm going to jump around a little bit, welcoming the Spirit Fam as they stop by, but also talking about, like I do every week, but usually I do this on Jeff's podcast. But Jeff canceled today. Boo. Just okay. Kidding. And we're going to talk about dream symbology. I'm going to teach y'all some dream symbology. Y'all already know. Yeah, Susie, man, you got that symbology in your mind, but I ain't going there. You're not taking me there, okay? Even though snakes are a fascinating symbology. Snakes are very, very fascinating symbology. All right. So we have a few more people who are watching. Praise the Lord. That's good. I'm going to keep, for a few minutes, introduce, and before I get really started, I'm going to get some water and stuff. But so there was we usually get together on Saturday nights and we participate in a live stream, the Jeff Mara podcast, where I hope people come on. And I probably should learn to do that, right? Because I have Zoom, but all in good time. And people come on and we talk about different stuff that has to do with paranormal ideas, right? With the supernatural. Jeff's channel is known for near-death experiences and for a wide variety. Aliens, UFOs is another very popular one. But I think his the foundation of the channel, which I always like to talk about, is NDEs, near-death experiences. And I highly, highly cannot recommend enough the to immerse yourself, to experience people, like real life people. Like when they read it, it's good, but when a person's in your face and they're like, this is what happened to me, and it's like they were, their leg is chopped off, or any other sort of experience, like these people were in the hospital, these people's other family members died, etc. When you get that testimony of their face talking to you, telling you, remembering about the spirit realm, then you definitely your mind gets changed in a very, very helpful way. I mean, that's certainly what's part of what I'm doing. Yes, Jay, true. And we live close to each other. So NDEs are doing their work, and there's other sorts of spiritual testimonies doing their work, right? But the type of work I'm doing is twofold, right? It's twofold. Yeah. Minnie Rapunzel, aka Mindy, says it's impactful, changing. Yeah, that's definitely what has given us that bond. I think also is that we have that respect for that experience that a lot of us have really gotten into. Like again, watching a lot of NDEs, it changes your mind. It changes your mind. You just watch a number of NDEs and you just go like this. Oh, we don't die after this. That's not what happens. Not even close. Not even a little bit. Like that's a thought in this thing's mind, right? It's a dream. Anyway, so let me pull back from that, right? Because I've never had an NDE, but I have had what you call STEs and some other stuff. But what I have my mind and heart set to talk about. And y'all can let me know. I'm guessing my volume's good. I did get some new mics and stuff, but I didn't set that all up. What we're going to be talking about are dreams. And again, this particular dream symbology that you're seeing, hopefully it's okay. Thank you. Um, but I'm glad I did this because I was feeling like trying to follow my spirit, and I feel like besides talking about dreams, I want to begin to talk about symbology. So maybe I'll keep doing these um, in the upcoming weeks. And in particular, I'm thinking this because the symbology which is most profound and most enjoyable at this particular time is the Christmas symbology. The Christmas symbology is wonderful. There's so much to get there, and it is like what's hidden underneath the symbology that's going on. Like just telling people, like, you're the manger. You get it? He was born in a manger. You're the manger, right? Just that sort of mystery, which is similar to the mystery of the dream language. All of this, what it has in common is that the language is a language of imagination. When you study this and reflect on this very, very deeply, you begin to get the sense, one may say, that you are imagination. And the more you think it through, there's good reasons for thinking like that, right? Because if I could chop off, God forbid, I could chop off your arm or your foot, etc., but you would still be that person, the same person, same essence. The only thing that I could take out of you, in one sense of thinking of it, is your imagination. That would define you as you, right? And then when we look out in nature, we see the testimony of imagination, right? Again, I'll bring this back to dreams, but when we look at flowers and trees and jellyfish, and we were talking about this last night, right? Butterflies and insects and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, right? When we think about all of that, it is like what we see that we couldn't deny is that it's an overwhelming power of imagination. Right? It's an overwhelming power of imagination that we are seeing in front of us. That's part one, right? So in the outer world, like, we could see trees and flowers, flora and fauna that are so amazing. We're like, okay, there's imagination at work here, right? There's design implied. However people feel about that argument. Now, from there, we can also find that pattern of creating in ourselves. That pattern of imagining and creating is also not just us personally, but all human beings. Like, we've created all this other additional stuff. Right? We've created all this other additional stuff. And we see ourselves reflecting the outer creator. That whatever created nature, we're like that, kinda, and not just a little bit, but it's different because that being created the flowers and the trees, and we do things like plant them or draw them, right? Or grow them. Right? So anyway, this I'm just laying as quickly a bit philosophical as the foundation for what we're thinking about when we're entering the realm of dreams. We're entering the realm of subconscious intelligence. It is fun. I like to tell people that the dreamer is smarter than you, right? The dreaming mind is completely, it's a genius. And the reason why you wake up and you're like, hey, oh man, I had a dream and I just totally didn't understand it. That's because the dreaming mind is smarter than you, right? The subconscious, the mind that creates the dream. I like to say this, because it's to stir us up. But I promise you, it's true. It's way smarter than you. Right? The one that talks cannot get it. But that's what I'm here to do, is to be like, hey, okay, you can know this language. Even though, again, you wake up and you're like, oh, what's going on here, right? Why don't I understand what came from my own mind? We can understand it for sure. It's not a question. I'm gonna let me take a breath for a second. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Jay's reminding me of when we used to be playing ball. Yeah, we played a lot of basketball. I always enjoyed sports. I remember. I think of it as a sports mirror the drama of life. Right? Okay, I'm gonna get some water, and then we're gonna go deep. Hey, Iris. Good good evening. We've been talking for a little while. It's all been kind of warm up. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna get some water and then we're gonna get started with symbology. So the dreams are magical. That's why I really enjoy that it's my ministry to do this because it's cool. It's very, very cool. Yeah, definitely. Thank you for stopping by, Iris. Like as you may have imagined, I just knew that we weren't having the live stream. So then I was like, you know what? Let me maybe do a live stream. Maybe people want to have some fellowship. Although it's not as diverse as Jeff does, but I do like what Jeff does. What a cool job that is to just interview a whole bunch of maybe what we would call weird people. you know, this person's like, oh, I'm channeling. This person's like, I interpret dreams. This person's like, I went to the death realm. And you just kind of going through, testimony. He had his 1,000th guest this past week. So shout out to him. Shout out to him, right? 1,000 guests. By the way, I was number, right? Let me represent myself. I was number 745 on Jeff's show. It did have a very good effect. I want to go on again, so we'll talk to him about that when I do my new book, right? Which is up to the point where I'm picking the cover and some other stuff like that. That book is Dream Detective Volume 2, Love, Sex, and the Pursuit of Wholeness. Man, that sounds intellectual, but I think that's it. So this is Dream Detective Volume 1, Amazing Messages from Within. I am the Dream Detective. I call myself a dream detective because after interpreting hundreds and hundreds of people's dreams, what I started to realize was this is like solving cases. In sometimes when a person tells me their dream, a friend, a client, etc., a stranger, sometimes I just immediately know. No matter how strange it is, I know what that means symbolically. Sometimes you got to put the pieces together. You got to look, oh, okay, here, and then the dreamer says something out of their own mouth, which reveals who they are or what they're going through, and you're like, oh, well, that's this is about this issue in your life, right? You're dreaming about heaven. Oh, because a friend of yours died last week. Yeah, like Jason said earlier, the dreams are typically an expression of exactly what is going on emotionally in your life, being expressed in what people call the astral realm, which is a level of the spiritual realm. Okay, so I don't know how deep I'm gonna go here. There's a lot of stuff that can be said here, but let's look at the and if you guys have questions, I'm using the model of talking about the house and the rooms, which I've been talking about for a while. So I figured, okay, let me do some work on this because I've been, deconstructing it for a while. But I also, like we do when I go on the live stream, I also definitely would be up to listening to or interpreting or commenting at least on some of your dreams. Obviously, they have to be somewhat shorter. So we'll get started with this and see how the night evolves. Right? We're at 8:40. Okay. So, as I said, the key idea here when we start thinking about it is that there's a correspondence, all right? The correspondence typically works like this. There's symbols that are going on in your mind. And let's remember this little phrase. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and a symbol is worth 1,000 pictures. You like that? I like that. Okay. So symbols are very powerful because they have all this meaning attached to them. That's why they work on us in the world. That's why companies use them. That's why spiritual warfare uses them. That's why marketing and promotions departments use them, right? Because they work on a level that is deeper than the language of our mouth. Okay? That's part of the mystery here. The language that we use with our mouth is deeper. Is what's called in the scriptures a confounded language, right? So it's a challenge for us to get for us to understand one another, right? But if I could take the picture that was in my mind and just give it to you, you would feel it, you would know it, right? And the visual medium surpasses this language. So I want you to just get the idea of for the sake of understanding of the correspondences. The correspondences also, once we start explaining them, which is what I should do, right? They explain themselves too. Like you'll be like, oh, of course that means that, right? So again, the house represents the soul of the dreamer. Why? Because if I go into the house or if they're in the house, we know how they're feeling. If I look around the house, I get reflections of who they are. Like I was saying earlier. Oh, do they have books? Do they have plants? Is it neat? Is it messy? Are the dishes not done? Is the bed not done? Or is it like a military setting? Okay, so the house is the dreamer, and then here's where we start to build. The rooms of the house are the emotions that the dreamer goes through. Does that make sense? The house is the dreamer. The rooms of the house are the emotional states that the dreamer goes through. Just the dream occurring in a certain room tells you that. Okay? And because you'll see the symbology is always it always works. Okay? No matter how strange it is. So let's do I guess let's do the bathroom. All right. So if people having dreams about being in the bathroom or having to use the bathroom, then it's either going to be about relief because that's what you feel when you need to use the bathroom. So people like some of my classic first clients had dreams where they had to pee, right? And that means there's a sense of urgency. Okay. There's a sense of urgency. How do I know? Because that is what you'd be feeling, right? A matter of fact, having to go to the bathroom, ooh, I gotta pee, is almost like a genius, perfect symbol for the feeling of urgency. That's, again, that correspondence that we're talking about. Now, the other thing that happens in dreams about the bathroom is that people have to want to wash themselves or cleanse themselves. And we can immediately go, oh, those would be like in the shower or washing their hands, right? Okay, let me go back. So Jay is also talking about some of the stuff from our past. Yes, and first I want to just quickly address that. And thank you for sharing that, Jay. This community is very understanding of, the things, the mysteries, and the stuff that we all go through. So for sure. Yeah. Okay, Iris, what does it mean when you dream that you can move things around with your mind, just like telekinesis? Okay. So this is a great example of like a powerful dream, right? Of a powerful dream. I'll read it again. It's a simple one in a sense. What does it mean when you dream that you can move things around with your mind? Like telekinesis, like Professor X from the X-Men and some of the other characters. Uh, if we want to be nerdy, there's two parts to that: distance, kinesis, moving. So this is moving over distance. Like I can make this book move and stuff like that. Okay, so then we look at that. We say, okay, that symbol, that fantastic symbol, what would that represent emotionally? Right? What would that represent emotionally? And what it would represent emotionally is the desire to, how do I explain this? It's like you want to increase the power of your will. Okay? You want to increase the power of your will because you want to be able to do things um, intellectually in a sense that is separate from the body, right? So if we are having a hard time getting certain things done in our life, we might dream of the power of just being able to do it with our mind. All right. That's a really good one. I don't think I totally solved it, but I think we began to deconstruct it. And I'm going to say hi to Bunny. Hi, Bunny. So this idea makes sense. Yeah. One of the things about dream interpretation, which is always kind of like a little bit of my pride, a little bit. Okay. Is that dream interpretation should never be something where it's like, guys, I got this message from this far off planet. Bathrooms mean blah, blah, sorry, being respectful, but it's not random. Okay. What I mainly am doing is pointing out to you what the built-in symbolism is in the language of imagination. So, yeah, good evening, Bunny. You said, hey, everyone, so bummed out about JMP, but grateful for Michael coming on live and everyone being here. Yes, definitely. Sister Bunny, I was like, as I've been talking about, yeah, I got to keep my mind because I'm going to all the conversations at the same time. But the first thing I want to say is just repeat for some of the people that have been here or who are just getting here or coming in and out that, yeah, I decided, oh, you know what? There are, might be a lot of people who wanted to have fellowship, who didn't have fellowship. So I was like, let me do a teaching on this subject that I've been working on for a few weeks at least. Okay, Susie says, bathtubs with no water, no matter what bathroom. Okay. So the essential element, the essential feeling that's going on there, okay, which would represent the experience is unsatisfaction, not getting what you need in the situation. Right? Like the essential reason you came to the thing, you're not getting that. If I go to a bathroom, the main thing that I'm going to be using in some way, most likely, if not always, is water. So if I am having dreams where there is no water, that's a dream of dissatisfaction or finding and ultimately feeling a form of dissatisfaction, and every bit of what some of the details are matters, but that's a pretty strong dream, right? And again, when we want to think about this, when we're interpreting, if it's just for ourselves and we just have a dream in our mind, we would say, whenever possible, how would I feel if that was actually happening? Like, how would I feel if I went to a room and there's I want to wash my hands and there's no water, or I want to take a bath and there's no water, I want to use the toilet, there's no water. And water itself is a powerful symbol. That's a super powerful symbol. I just had a client, and she had in her dream, there was perfume, and the type of it was water. The type of the perfume was water, and we talked all about the symbology of water. So let's talk about that. We'll go with the flow a little bit, just a little bit. what do we associate with water? What do we think about? So you notice that water, to some degree, it's an issue of form. Like, is it a river? Is it an ocean and stuff like that? But we do naturally associate things like cleansing ourselves, washing ourselves, relieving ourselves, being renewed. We drink water. Water, when it comes to, spiritual cleansing, a few people mentioned cleansing at the same time. That's when you're dreaming. Here's one for cleansing, y'all. Here's one for cleansing. Watch, as the pastor say, right, or as the preacher say, watch this. So someone's in the shower and they have some bugs on them, some insects, and they're trying to wash them off and they can't, right? So something's bugging them in their life and they can't wash it off, because what the shower does is it cleanses us in a renewing sort of way, in a repeated sort of way, right? Like cleansing off the residue of the day, for example, is a way to think about it. And yes, water is definitely life-giving, and it's one of the symbols where sometimes when people see a symbol like this, you'll say, oh man, does it really have a meaning? Yes, it definitely has a meaning. But water in particular has a special meaning because it's a special substance, it's inside of us. But for example, one of the mysteries of water is people, like last week, Mara talked about being pulled out to sea or being pulled out to the ocean, or people talk about being swallowed by a whale. These are because the ocean represents the mystery of existence, the unknown, right? Because just like if we go deep into the ocean, that we're going to stuff that's unknown. Okay, let me just take a breath. And mostly people are talking about spiritual cleansing. In doing this process, I highly encourage whatever comments you want to share. It keeps it engaging as I'm going along here, but I'm going to keep going. So I'm going to talk generally, and then I'm going to do something which any of you who have begun to understand my method, which, because you know me, you talk about this, and people do start to get to know the method, right? You'll like this part because I'm saying, right, that the rooms of the house represent the different states of mind. If you're going to the bathroom, you need relief, okay, in the dream. If you're in the bedroom, it's something about intimacy, right? Something about needing rest. If you have a little mouse in your dream in the bedroom, there's a little problem that's bothering you. It's disturbing your peace or intimacy. In the kitchen is where people create and sustain things together, okay? Here's a fun one. All right, classic one from the kitchen. This dreamer said that her mate was yelling at her about something burning on the stove. You got it? Her mate, her partner's yelling at her like, hey, what are you doing? This is burning, about something burning on the stove. There's more to it, but I just want to share that part, right? That would be the symbology of a person saying they're being neglected, right? Why? Right? Because I thought of it? No. Because the only time we burn food is when we forgot it or we're neglecting it. You see? So her partner was yelling at her about neglecting what they were cooking together, what they were creating together. Now, why would that be often associated with a symbol or with the symbol of the couple? Because people make things together to sustain themselves. And also families appear in kitchens. Okay. We got to talk a little bit. If you guys are starting to get this, and this would be good because that's triggering your subconscious symbology, which is part of your spirit. So this is deep. All right. This is deep. The basement. All right. I know I've talked about this before. I would actually love to know, what you guys think the basement symbolizes. Well, I take some water. What's being represented when someone dreams they're in the basement and they're going through these boxes and looking at things from their childhood, looking at photographs from the past, You with me? Yeah, it could be fears. It could be. It could be. Think about the symbology. So we go down into the basement. We go to some boxes there. Woo! Now y'all are warming up. Now y'all are warming up. Yeah, I'm not gonna read what you're saying. I'm gonna give you all some more time because yes, now you're warming up. Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Hi, Maureen. Oh, that, yes, that's awesome. Okay. So, yes. Okay. What I want to say first is the fact that you knew it just by me giving you a few leads means you know the language already. You see? You know the language. It's just it's just the fact that you need to connect with it in your imagination. Like, okay, this is this other way of thinking, which is our symbolic language. Because in the death realm or in the heavenly realms, we don't talk with our mouths. I'll repeat that, right? In the heavenly realms, we don't talk with our mouths, we talk with our imaginations. So dreams are partially reflecting that. And they do it in a way where it's very telling, right? Okay, so you guys said, you detectives, uh, fears, and then Sue started to say hidden secrets, things under the surface that they haven't faced. That is really good, Bunny. That's really good. Now you're getting deep. That's what we're talking about. You see, if you're hitting the dream really good with your imagination, it's like what's being felt is being carried and made into a picture. And you're like, that's a perfect picture for it, right? Me going into the basement, going into boxes that have certain things from my childhood. That's a particular one. Going to see pictures, etc. So let me keep going what you guys have here. I think of it especially as your buried past. Okay? Here's why, and Susie said that. And my definition here is okay, basement, buried emotions, secrets, and like things from your past. Okay, because typically, okay, not in every case, it's not how the language works, it's how we usually use it. So typically, people bury things in the basement from their past, from their childhood often, right? And it's beneath us, so which means it's in a deeper part of ourselves. So it's representing things that are buried deep within us, okay? Almost always from the past, often also from our childhood. So it wasn't fully processed, etc. Boom, put that thing in the basement, bro, sis. Put that thing in the basement, put it where there's no light. So if a person goes into the boxes, that would typically mean something like going into the categories of your memory, right? Looking at pictures would be like, okay, why would someone begin dreaming that they're going into the basement and unpacking boxes? You go to therapy. You go to therapy and your therapist starts asking you about your childhood. You could definitely have a dream that you're going into the basement. Does that make sense? I think that's actually a really good example. Whew. Cheers. How y'all doing? Okay. So Maureen says, I dreamt before I had a lion in my basement. So let's just do that. We certainly have the time and it's the good context, right? So how would we deal with this? How, from an interpretation perspective, or just we have this dream. Thankfully, that's a simple idea, okay? Like it's not super complicated. So we would just take the two elements, one being a lion, the other one being in a basement, and then like two hieroglyphs. So we just talked about what a basement is. So that's the first hieroglyph. Y'all with me? That's the first hieroglyph. The other hieroglyph in this case, in the person's mind, is the lion. So then we go like this. Hey guys, what's a lion? What does that symbolize? Okay, so we know that the lion is like the king of the jungle. I think people often associate it with like courage. Here's where it gets deep. This is the part I love. Pardon my okay? A lion that's a great dream, is a symbol that you have a power and a courageousness that is hidden in you. Y'all see that? Because okay, if I went to somebody's house or if I'm passing by their house and they have a lion in their basement, literally that would translate to they have a power, this courageous creature, right? Hidden and under, sort of again in the basement of where they dwell, right? So that's how I would interpret that. I think that's a really amazing one, right? Um, yeah, yeah, I like that. I'll probably put that in one of my future books. Okay, then Susie, who always has a witticism, says that we could be talking about bodies buried in the basement, right? In the basement dream. That would be a fun dream. Okay, you could definitely have that, even if we're just imagining it, and it does deconstruct symbolically. Like we're like, okay, this is what that would probably mean if I had a dream that bodies were buried. So, for example, now what I think the gift that I have when it comes to interpretation is like developed intuition and then being a bit of a therapist, right? And knowing my philosophy and psychology, I sort of had these implications. So, like when I see bodies buried in the basement, I see the symbology and then I see the psychological profile behind it. I'm like, okay, that would probably mean like people that you have completely eliminated from your life. Okay, it may imply that there's some unforgiveness there, right? That has to be processed, right? But again, it gets deep. Okay, Buddy's buried in the basement. Shazam! I had that dream. Okay, thank you, Susie. I appreciate that. It always helps to know. I do like to check in with people. It's like, hey, is this clear? Is this making sense? Um, so Jay says, I had multiple dreams of flying above the train station along Jamaica Avenue, which is very cool because I can completely imagine that having lived. Me and Jay lived down the block from each other for a long, long time. And we live by this train, which is what's called an L. I think, Susie, you'll know it as an L, as an elevated train. But it was the J train. And it's part of that New York City subway system, which you're always hearing roaring by when you live on the avenue. So let's talk for a moment about flying dreams. Okay, let's talk about flying dreams. Flying dreams and all of those sort of basic actions are one of the ways I'm working on a class. So one of the ways I'm using to explain the basics of dream interpretation. Flying, falling, running, all of those core things are good examples for correspondences. All you need to do is to go, if I was doing that thing, what would I be feeling? So like running is typically going to be urgency, because if you're running, something's like urgent, unless you're exercising. But there's symbology for that. Now, when we're talking, a lot of people have mentioned, there's certain things that come up repeatedly, going to school and the waves that were mentioned last week, right? And maybe we'll talk about that dream from last week. But let's focus a little bit more. Falling dream, you feel out of control in your life. Okay, if you're falling in your dream, if you're being chased by a monster, that's something that an issue you're not dealing with. Okay, flying among the various actions, among the various metaphysical actions, is one of the more noble. It's one of the more grand, and it's positive, basically. Okay, because if you're falling, really what that means is it's a type of stress. Okay, if you're falling, it's a type of stress, right? If you're flying, you are above you have a higher perspective. So almost always when people are flying, clients, people who I just am generally interpreting for, I'm seeing, it's good. It's good, right? If you were flying, how we know it's mostly going to be good, because almost every case where I imagine myself like, ooh, I'm flying, it's like, ooh, it's such a wonderful thing. What would we say? I can see everything from here. That's what your dream is saying. Your dream is saying you're having this higher perspective. Now, of course, to be really good, to be a dream detective, we have to associate it with flying along the train station along Jamaica Avenue, which is a long path going from Brooklyn to Queens or Queens to Brooklyn, however you want to imagine, or to Manhattan. But this means that our perspective, elevated though it is running along a particular route. There's something that we are familiar with in this higher perspective. Okay. But yeah, flying is always going to represent perspective, and then usually it'll team up with what are you seeing while you're flying. That creates the other part, right? Because again, it's a hieroglyph flying, then there would be other hieroglyphs added to that which comment on it. All right. Here's a fun one. Someone had a dream that they were flying and then a dragon came. Right? And a dragon came and attacked them. So that's really interesting. Even now, I'm getting it more. So this is a person who is who is having. I want you all to get this because I just want you to share in the deepness of this. It's the way it works is it blows my mind too, right? Like again, I'm getting it so deep now, deeper than this was my client. Okay, so I interpreted her dream formally. But now, even as I'm explaining it, which is what happens, it's even deeper. Because a dragon is a fierce creature. Okay? A dragon is a fierce creature. It breathes fire, which is a destroying power, turning you into ash, right? They also dwell in these higher realms. So it's higher, more complicated things. A good if you want to get deep with it, higher thing that only a human could have might be maybe addiction. I want to use other examples, but there are certain types of problems that are unique to a human being. They're higher type of problems. Anyway, in her dream, she started flying and then the dragon attacks her. So this is, since the dragon has to be her, right? This is something in her life, a problem, an issue, a relationship that when she tries to make spiritual progress, because that's what flying is spiritual progress, spiritual perspective, higher perspective. When she's trying to do that, this thing is attacking, right? And this person actually told me that they were working on certain things in their life to make progress. So it really makes sense that the challenges that she is facing she represents them in her mind as a dragon. Deep stuff. This stuff comes from the spirit because we are spiritual beings, right? We're spiritual beings, just in case anybody forgot. That's the only thing that can happen is you can forget. You can forget that we're spiritual beings, but we are spiritual beings. The type of beings we are is I am. Okay? Because all of us have to say I am. And if you want, let's just go for just a little tangent. The type of being we are is the type of being that's self-aware. That's the difference between us and all the stuff that's here. Is we're self-aware, like, oh, I exist. Okay, all right. I'm going to leave that for now because that's a different direction. Okay, so you're welcome, Maureen. Susie, thank you. Jay says Gen X will do that. Yeah, not the kids still screaming out loud. I feel like, hey, Rhonda, good evening. I feel like we are. So I'm gonna comment really quick for Rhonda, and then I'm gonna address this something about kids and dreams. Okay, so remind me. So Rhonda, quickly, yeah, I decided to do a stream. I figured people may wanted to have some fellowship, and I mean, granted, it was going to mainly be about dreams, but certainly a subject you're interested in that we were talking about today. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. But so Jay mentioned, yeah, there's no Jeff Mara live stream. They said they're going to stop for a while, but I think, God willing, I think I'm going to do this, and I did this spontaneously, so I think I can get better at it. Who knows? I mean, I have Zoom, so we could bring people on. That might be funny. Or if we want to get like deep with it, by God's help, like we could bring a person on and they could tell me their dream, and we could see what's Michael's real skills. Put Michael on the spot. Be like, what do you got to say about that weird dream? I'm only confident like that because we because we've done it before, right? Were you guys there? So, okay, again, I remember where I am, but were you guys there when the person, um, her name is gonna have to come back to me. But this woman came on and she was like, "Oh, I want the dream interpreter dream to interpret my dream." And she had like three. First of all, when I came on, she had three different dreams that she was to choose from. And I was like, let's just do the first one. And it happened to be that the dream was about Raskolnikov, which is a literary figure from the classic Russian novelist Dostoevsky, from the book called Crime and Punishment, which sounds like an abstraction. You guys are like, what are you talking about Russian literature for, Michael? Because she dreamt about a character from Russian literature, which happened to be the only book on Russian literature I've ever read in my life. Y'all vibing me on this? She came on. She's like, I want the dream interpreter guy, me, to interpret a dream for me. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So I come on to do it live. Let's do it live, right? And she says, I had this dream about this character named Raskolnikov. Do you know who Raskolnikov is? And like this Puerto Rican dude from the Bronx, or from Queens, born in the Bronx. You're like, does he know who Raskolnikov is? Yeah, I happen to really know. Like I got obsessed with the book Crime and Punishment for a little while, like out of school, just randomly. And I always found the concept interesting. I got really into that book. And here, let's just talk a little bit about that, okay? It's very deep because the character of Raskolnikov, what he does is he kills somebody and then he gets overcome by guilt. So she dreamt she was with this character, which tells you very clearly, this is where dreams get personal and tell you secrets, that she feels guilty. Okay? I'm just going to say that one other time for those of you who are focused in on this. She dreamt of a famous literary character who was associated with deep, profound guilt. Raskolnikov's guilt was so deep he couldn't eat, right? And then it's this whole novel that's going on. And she dreamt about riding around in Russia with that character. So she was dealing with guilt. And she had this one cool part where she's a little old lady, and they gave her a giant gun to defend herself. Y'all hearing me? This little old lady with white hair, and they gave her this big Russian gun to defend herself. But a gun would be a symbol of the person feeling the need to keep others away, to protect themselves, etc. All right. That was a little bit of a tangent. Yeah. You guys can put questions and stuff like that. I mean, try to keep it at a level where I can look at it, where it's not too overwhelming. But yeah, y'all can certainly put some questions, put some dream questions in. I'm going back to the top. And so let's see, or not to the top. All right. Okay. So quickly on Gen X, because Jay said Gen X will do that, not with the kid. I don't know exactly what you mean, but I'll turn that into, we should be teaching our children to interpret their dreams. Okay. When I leave this place, I'm going to be mad if we don't have a legacy where people are interpreting their dreams. Okay. It's good when you pay me to do it. Absolutely. Good. I'm good at it. I work hard at it. But it's also good when you learn to do it. Yes, it is. I have to admit that. It's good when you learn to do it. It's an exercise in your spirit that's happening. You're opening. And even more than us, our generation, the children, right? Imagine a kid has some weird, crazy dream. Okay, maybe it's kind of cool. And he's like, "Oh man, and this happened, and I was running, da da da." And you tell that kid your dreams don't mean nothing except you had too much Taco Bell. Like that used to be a thing. Like, oh, you just ate too much food or junk food, or it was a stress, or it's gibberish in your mind. That kid, as in this thought experiment, would be like, "Ah, right." Wah, 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 wah. Now imagine if you told them and explained to them that this crazy dream they had is the power of their subconscious imagination, that their subconscious imagination is a genius, that it can communicate to them, that it is communicating within them, and that they, if they look carefully like a detective, they will begin to unfold the secrets that are occurring in their mind while they sleep. Because that's the thing that I can show everybody, is that we can know this. We can know this like a language. We can know this intuitively. So when we teach our kids that, just a little bit more of the preaching. When we teach our kids that, because this is a big paradigm shift, you feel me? You teach the kid that their dreams don't mean nothing. They think life is meaningless. Okay? Yeah, we could definitely do that, Jay. All right? You teach them that there's no, your dreams mean nothing. They think, oh, things happen in my mind. That's the beginning to think a certain way. You see? Like, oh yeah, I can't understand myself. I'm not the type of being that can understand myself. Things happen to me and I don't understand them. And again, kids versus telling children, including ones who are not doing good in school, your dreams prove you're a genius. Because that's what it is, folks. Again, I'm just going to let myself preach on that just for a moment. Your dreams are the part of you that represents genius. That's why, again, so many people don't understand them, because it's a genius and it's talking to you. And it's so smart, so wise in how it's using the symbology, the symbolic language, that all of us, when we wake up, we're like, well, can you say that again? What does that mean? But here's the truth that I've learned and that I've proven and that we've all experienced now, those of you who know me, is that we can look at it, focus in, and then it begins to decode. It begins to be deciphered. It begins to reveal itself to us. I'll tell you a little secret. Just focusing on the pictures in your dreams, if you hold it in your mind and like think about it, just that would begin to tell you the meaning. That's how it works in that level of being. Just looking at it for us begins to unfold it. Right? This is why I say and I explain that it's a power greater than me. All right, let's go to your comments. I pray this is making sense. This is obviously, of course, my style. It's going along, mixing the dreams with spiritual commentary. Like I said, in the future, I'm going to be talking about some deep symbolic. I really am excited to be talking about Christmas symbology. So talk about you, Jay. You said like I'm like a little kid. I am hyped to be talking about Christmas symbology upcoming. Okay, let's go back to what you guys were saying here. Okay. So I answered Jay's question. Rhonda's here. Rhonda be having some seriously interesting dreams. People saying hi. Jay says, maybe that's my dream, getting out of New York to Florida for 11 years. The number 11, if we're just gonna be playing around a little bit, I'll tell y'all some of the secrets, some of the things. Now, again, there's things which I'm like, this is obviously true. I can show you this. There's some stuff that's speculative. But in my experience, I had a lot of 11s, a lot of 11 haunting. And I know some of you have numerical hauntings. And what I experienced was that I was taught by my mind when I asked, I finally was like, what does 11 mean? And I studied it. I researched it. None of the answers were good enough. The 11 came back to me and was like, the 11 is the hour before a new day. Right? I'll say that again. 11 is the hour before the new day. So it would be like 11 p.m. Okay. But 11 is the hour before a new day. So that means before everything changes, before there's a shift. I'm not going to go down the conspiratorial lane, but there's a reason that I believe we see the number 11, right? There's a reason that people were, because I know I wasn't the only person who was seeing the number 11 for a while, right? Like it was haunting me. I actually have a video. Now I'm being self-promotory, making that up. But I do have a very cool video on this channel of the 11s compiled. So there's no question. It shows. It's like 3 minutes set to music and coolness of just seeing where 11 occurs. So part of 11 is I used, is like when we would see 11, like you look at the clock and it's 9:11 or 11:11, all that sort of stuff. That, okay, that's like, all right, okay, maybe it's just you. Maybe you just happen to be looking, you're noticing it now. It's in your mind. Okay, but then I found 11s in movies, 11 in TVs, 11 in how people speak, right? People went from saying top 10 to actually, if you look on YouTube, you can do it yourself. You can look up top 11, and all of a sudden everything's top 11, right? There's 11 stuff that's related to 9/11, right? Because what happened to us was we were traumatized by an 11 that got destroyed in front of us. So now every time we see the number 11, there's an association there. Okay, all right, that's the conspiracy for the night. Okay, maybe, but hope y'all can see that. That is, again, and what I was experiencing, which I think has happened, is, for those of you who don't know, I have become a different type of being in the sense that I realize I'm an eternal being, right? And that is a type of shift. So maybe that's an example of the reason why I was seeing 11s. And by the way, lest I boast in myself, when I'm talking about, where I'm talking that there's a shift in us, that if it happens to me, it's definitely happening to other people. It's definitely, right? That's the whole principle, as I understand it, is that we are a category of creature which we can think of as a caterpillar. That's a very cool way for us to for my book. See, I was going to read this, and again, I'm sorry, y'all. Hopefully, we're still having fun. I am going a little bit all over the place, but this is still Symbology. This is the book I wrote with my friend Esther, called Scared to be a Butterfly. You see how much symbology is just in the title alone? Scared. The caterpillar is scared to be a butterfly. Y'all getting that symbology yet? Right? I was scared to be a butterfly, but how could that be if I was the butterfly and the butterfly was me? All right. So yeah, there's more to talk about with that. That is my. I did the story, and Esther did the beautiful illustrations. All right. I'm so, this book brings me joy because it's so symbolically insightful, right? Okay, all right. We're going back to dreams. I'm gonna take a deep breath. All right. So we're talking a little bit about Florida. Shout out to Florida. Then Bunny says she's gonna put one in. Yeah. Okay. Jay says he'd like to be a guest. I like that. I like when a person goes, "Ooh, pick me." That's like enthusiasm, right? Mike Tyson said enthusiasm is one of the keys to life. I don't know why I'm quoting Mike Tyson. Okay, Jay again says, meaning of older folks learned how to bury a lot of our emotions. Yeah, well, there's, yes. Okay, I get you now. So he had made a comment earlier, and he was saying how older people in a certain generation, which this is very relevant to the dreams, buried their emotions. So here's how this would work. This is a solid lesson I'm giving you in dream interpretation. This is solidly how it works. If you bury your emotions, they will come out as a dream. Okay? Like whatever you have, I fear death, or I'm mad at a family member, or I'm worried about my marriage, or I want to get to a certain goal in life. Whatever, and if you're not dealing with that, or to whatever degree you are dealing with it, that it produces energy in you. So you're thinking about it a lot, right? It's affecting even your body language. That energy is going on in you. That certainly burying it is, for example, how you end up with dreams about going to the basement. Just returning to that, right? Talk about burying stuff, like burying your emotions. Yeah, you end up in the basement. You end up having dreams about the stuff that's going on in the basement. Maybe you're vacuuming down there. It means you're trying to clean up your childhood. Here's another just bit of the idea, and then I'm going to take a breath, and I'm going to go a little bit further. And I'm going to invite some stuff. Yeah, I'm going to answer that. That's a really good question, Maureen. Uh, we'll sip here. Hmm. Happy Saturday night. Thank you for joining me. I pray this is valuable to you. I believe it is. We're in the spirit. We're flowing. Um, yeah, good to have you here, Spirit Fam. And Maureen asked a really straightforward and great question. Okay. She says, I've heard that everything in a dream is a reflection of yourself. Is that true, IMO, in your opinion? Right. I would say I'm, and again, I tend to be bold. I wouldn't even qualify it as my opinion. I would say it's sort of a self-evident rule, right? And now, it doesn't mean that it's a bad question because it's the same thing as people not understanding what's going on in their mind, not understanding it. If you don't, if you have a dream and you're like, oh, what does that mean? You don't feel like that's you. You feel a level of alienation from it. Okay. But I want to show you how deep this goes, Maureen. If you feel alienated from your dreams, that means you're alienated from that emotion or that experience that you're having, right? So it's always a reflection. It's how the mechanism of our dream works. The theory, I'll call it a theory, but I'm telling you, I've done like, okay, 700 dreams is probably a good number, going on the high number, right? But if you want to go low, okay, I've done 500 dreams. Then. A whole bunch of them are formal, like people have paid me for. I've put them out there. I show how they work. So my theory, we'll call it that, of correspondence, which is a reflection, Maureen, is exactly what you're saying. It's a reflection. It's correspondence. You have an emotion, Maureen, it becomes strong enough. Again, not just emotion. Don't think of it in a simple way, but deep, energetic energy and motion inside your body. It produces something. So your dream becomes almost like a kidney or a liver. It's detoxing you in a lot of cases. But either way, it's taking the energy that you're experiencing it and it's producing it in a symbolic form. Okay, that's what's happening. And once you see about 2 or 3 dreams, maybe sometimes one, it shows you that this principle is at work, right? Because the example I always use is someone had a dream that they were in a maze and they had to use the bathroom really bad, and they were running around in the maze, and every time they got to one of the doors, they found these doors that led to restrooms, and they opened the doors and there was brick walls there. Okay, so again, very straightforward dream. Oh, I'm in a maze. I had to use the bathroom really bad. I was running around looking for a restroom. I found the restroom, but when I opened them, there's just a brick wall there. Ooh, that's a harsh one. So the correspondence is like this. This is how literal the correspondence is and how you do interpretation. You take the pieces, if you don't know like the whole thing, you take the pieces and you're like, okay, if I'm in a maze, what does that mean? I'm confused about direction, right? Everybody, like not just me. I'm not giving you some special meaning. I'm just showing you, right? I have to use the bathroom really bad, like we said earlier. So it's urgent. Okay. I find a restroom. I need to relieve myself. Okay. So this person was looking for a job, this dreamer. They were looking for a job. They were confused about where they would find a job, very, very confused. They felt that they urgently needed to find a job. When they put in some applications and some interviews, I want you to see the relationship for a moment between life and the symbology. So again, this person, the person who dreamt about the maze, they needed a job. That's confusion about direction. They didn't know how they were going to get it. They felt like they needed to go to the bathroom. That's because they were urgent. Oh, I need to get a job. Okay. So the dream said, okay, you feeling that? I'm going to make it so that you have to use the bathroom in the dream. They were putting in applications and stuff, but they weren't leading anywhere. So they were looking for a restroom, room to rest from their stress. They opened it. So they put in an interview where they put in an application, and it doesn't lead anywhere. Okay, hopefully I made that clear. I I need to be careful because I was reading your guys' comments at the same time. But hopefully, for Maureen, I wanted to make the relationship clear between our emotions and then the symbols that appear. And I'll tell you the amazing thing, Maureen, where it shocks me forever, is the type of symbols that can be used, the type of hieroglyphs and the way that they're combined. So that's why, again, it becomes a detective thing, because you're like, oh, I start from the position that I know that every dream has a meaning, and then I begin to deconstruct it. Again, sometimes your intuition just tells you. Okay, deep breath. So let me catch up with you guys. All right. So again, that was a really great question and a real fundamental question. Because once you say yes, everything I dream about is telling me something about myself, you immediately position your mind to begin to interpret. And I'll go a little bit further. Your dreams are looking to benefit you. Y'all feel me? Just like your liver, okay, or your kidneys. Your dreams are working on whatever your issue is. If you're excited about it, that's one of the things I want. It's a little tricky, but it's like most people are stressed. But even if you're excited, your dream is working on that for you in the subconscious realm while you sleep, while the you that you think you are, I'm here, I am, right? There's a whole thing that's going on, right, in your sleep. So your dream is working on it. And dreams not only, I want everybody to hear this because this is the spiritual part. Dreams are not only helping, right? They're not only helping you with the issue. Like that woman was being helped with feeling stressed about her job situation. Okay, she was being helped by the dream. Often that goes to the extent where your dreams can provide warnings. I've had dreams where I interpreted where it was clear the person was getting a warning. Right? I won't go into the examples at this point. Okay. So Bunny says, all right, I just want to make sure I'm going in the right order. Okay. About 30 years ago, Bunny gonna get deep on me because Bunny is deep. About 30 years ago, I had a dream that I could see my own tombstone, and it had the death date on it. I have since forgotten what the date. Girl, how are you gonna forget what the date was? Like, Bunny, much love to you, sis. That's my spirit sister. How are you gonna forget that? I'm saying that love. I'm sharing that love because how are you gonna forget that? Now I see why Iris is like, wow, buddy. Geez, right? That is super deep. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're still gonna address it, but you remind me a little bit of Tanya, right? Because Tanya, she's like, I have to write this down. I'm trying to do my little Tanya Spanish accent. Oh, I need to write this down. Right, don't tell her I was doing her accent, right? All right, but yeah, she often says I need to write this down, and then it's something like that. Certainly, maybe not. I needed to go to the bathroom or whatever, but if you got your tombstone in your dream, especially if okay, so here we're going to talk about two types of dreams, two types of dreams. This is deep because we got the mental aspect of it, which I've been talking about. Hey, you have a job issue, you have a relationship issue, you have a conflict, you're worried, it comes up in your dreams. Your emotions overlap and get expressed in your dreams. But then this is where I needed to start working, and what I am working on now. There's another type of dream, y'all. That other type of dream is where the person goes into what people typically call the astral realm. So I'm dreaming, stuff is happening. And then an example of it would be someone who their great grandmother dies and comes to visit them while they're in their dream. Okay? That's the other one. I've even been working on like what this is as a category. Okay? That's not the only type, by the way. Grandmother. It's just that there are some dreams that people have where they feel like they've crossed over into the spirit realm and they're experiencing something from the spirit realm. And that makes sense, at least in terms of categories, because here's the type: murky, unclear, very symbolic. All the edges right? In your dream, they're usually kind of frayed. They're like a little bit like you can feel you're in a dream. These other types, things are, and they're also, you forget them. This other type are very clear. People often refer to them as like lucid, like so real, and they're hard, like it's easy to remember them. Okay, so these, along with what happens in them, are like spiritual visitations. So I'm bringing this up, Bunny and everybody, because when I think about a dream where I saw my own tombstone, I want to ask two questions. Okay, here's the symbology. We'll talk about this, the regular symbology, right? But I also have to wonder, like, am I getting a spiritual message alongside the symbology? Because that's pretty intense, right? It's pretty intense to dream about getting your own tombstone. Y'all know what an epitaph is? Epitaph are the words that are written on it. Rest in peace and that sort of thing. But let's go back into it. Let's enter in for a second. Then I'm going to take a break, and then if you guys want to put in some other questions or something like that, or we'll take it from we'll flow with it. Okay. So again, she says, about 30 years ago, I had a dream that I see my own tombstone, and it had the death date on it. Since then, I've forgotten what the date was, but was curious if it's a symbol for a death and a rebirth period. A tombstone would only be, of course, it's a symbol of death, right? Which means ending. I wouldn't associate a symbol with rebirth because it's not a symbol which is energetically implies that. I'll give you an example of one that does. It's the opposite. A butterfly, okay, is an example of rebirth, okay? A stone is to stay there. That's even the implication of it, a tombstone, that it's marking the end. Now, we may think, spiritual-minded people may think of death as the beginning of the next, which is exactly what it is, okay? Just to be clear, it's exactly what it is. I don't want to overhype myself, but it is the process of us transitioning. So it is a type of rebirth. It is us returning to the spirit realm and being like, how did we do as human beings, right? But symbolically, the tombstone is not that. So, okay. So if somebody, let's say I had a client, and the client's like, Michael, I had this dream where I had a tombstone, right? And the date of my my death was on it. What I would think was happening emotionally is this person is having a revelation that they're going to die one day. Okay? That's it. You see how straightforward that is? Once we just look at it and we kind of say it out loud, we're like, okay, this person just realized, notice how the words work in sort of like in different levels at the same time. They're going to die one day. General sense, but you got the mystery of having it, right? Having the actual date. So your one day was everybody's one day, but except you saw the day. Oh, somehow that makes sense. Okay. Now, I would actually say, as much as I was messing with you about the fact that you forgot it, it's probably what's supposed to be. I mean, I don't think we're supposed to know when we die. That that would just make you concerned about it, like one of those movies, like one of those death movies where death is like following you. It actually is just better, in my opinion, where we are spiritually now, to truly understand that what we thought was the case, we thought we were our bodies. That's what we thought. That's not the case. It's not the case at all. The evidence is overwhelming, and it's good news. Because if this was the whole of it, if Earth was eternal and not temporal, meaning it didn't come and go, everything here comes and goes. If it was eternal, God would be unjust. You feel me on that? because it'd be like, oh my God, like look, there's a people with Down syndromes and a person with one arm and all this other stuff, and life is horrible sometimes. Yeah, that's because that's this experience. This is the land of good and evil, the place of polarity, the place where you experience the whole realm of things. Right? Where we come from, it's there's no ugliness, there's no sickness, there's like it sounds like it's something very strange, but that's the truth, and you can reflect on it, and the reflection it opens up to you that it's not a weird thing, that intelligence is talking to us. Go look at the flowers if we need to, right? Go look at the trees if we need to. Go look at an octopus, as someone said before. By the way, nerd moment, octopus is a fun word. It's always good to know the etymology of words. That's another random little thing which helps me in dream interpretation. Octo is 8, pus is feet, right? From ped. So octopus, 8 feet, 8 arms, 8 legs. That always I find has helped me, knowing the root words. Okay, let's go a little bit further. So thank you for the feedback, Maureen. I appreciate it. Which I know you put a few minutes ago. Bunny says, right, it scared me, but I'm pretty sure the date passed. Yes, amen. Okay. I thought maybe it was part of me dying off. Okay, so I definitely think that could be a part of it. Like that. See, again, I see the hieroglyph, and the hieroglyph, any hieroglyph I show you, if I show you, let's just keep it at, I don't know, a lizard, okay? That has a meaning, but it has a few associations. And what I do is I sort of look at the associations, and to be honest, again, when I hear what the dreamer has to say, it makes it clearer. Like sometimes I'm leaning a little bit one way, and then I'm like, okay, like for example, we know for a fact that a tombstone is about death, but the part we don't know necessarily is how the dreamer is, what they're going through at that point in their life and what they're perceiving. So I want to give this as a fuller expression of that example because it's a great one, Bunny. So guys, or dreamers, if we had a dream, like, okay, let's say we come to a part in our life where we do dramatic change, okay? Like, I don't know, let's say we had a drinking problem, and then we put down the bottle, we stop drinking, we go to AA, all this dramatic stuff happens, and we dramatically change our lives. At that point, and I've had a client who had this, you could have a dream of dying because part of you is dying. Feel me on that? Your old self, your old habits, your old way of being is dramatically dying. So that appears in your dream. I'll tell you, I had a person who was in recovery for drugs, and they shared a dream that they had while they were in recovery, and it was so intense. It was them in their bedroom strangling themselves. You feel me? They were strangling themselves, dreamers. Okay? That is, as people, this is why all the random knowledge I have comes in handy, because one of the things I know about strangulation is that it's said to be a very personal way of committing violence. It says if it's not personal, the person doesn't strangle you, right? It's like you use a gun, use a knife. There's all these ways. Strangulation has a particular symbology. Right? So she was strangling herself because she was killing an old part of herself. Right? Whew, that's deep stuff. The subconscious mind. Okay. All right. So Bunny put one in. I'm going to just take a quick drink, and then I'm going to go a little bit longer again. So I will invite 9:43. I'm going to go a little bit longer. You guys give me a little bit of feedback. But again, I'm going to get something to drink, and then I'm going to look at Bunny's dream. Maybe I'll read it to y'all first. Here's my recent interesting one. Dreamt I was hanging out with Tanya, our homegirl Tanya. Was as if we knew each other that's interesting. Was as if we knew each other for a long time. Not like just meeting in person. She was pregnant. Woo! Okay. All right. Okay. All right, because it's multi-part. I'm gonna drink and then come back to that. As we say among the Jeff Mara listeners, not going to go too late, but grab a snack, grab some water, stay hydrated. And you can think about this symbology. Oh, okay. Before we go to this one, here's a fun symbology for you. That's about the house, okay? Somebody had a dream that they had old curtains, okay? So you have the symbology right here. They had old curtains and new windows, okay? I'm messing with you. I want you to get this. This is my little test for you before I get my drink. The person dreamed they had windows, right? New windows, and they had old curtains. And in the dream, somebody told them, don't put those old curtains on the new windows. A matter of fact, let me make it a little easier. The person said, it's bad to have... The person said it's bad to have old-fashioned windows. Okay, that's one part of it. The person said it's bad to have... Let's leave it at that. It's bad to have old-fashioned windows. Right? Okay. All right, dreamers. By the way, a little footnote, because some people are like, Michael, I don't dream. When I've done my research on my books, it turns out everybody dreams. That's what the evidence is. So what's the evidence? Now, it's pretty good evidence. Here's the evidence, guys. So people have said, hey, I don't dream. Then they go into a laboratory and they do a test where they go to sleep for a little while, right? And they're being watched, they're being monitored, particularly their eyes. And what happens when we dream, as most people know, or maybe have known for a long time, is our eyes watch our dreams like it was a movie, right? It's so weird because it's happening in our imagination, but our natural eyes are acting like they're like, and sometimes our body as well, right? I remember doing a high block in my dream. So when, yeah, pardon. All right, pardon. Let me drink for a moment. So what they found out was, even when a person said, I don't dream, when they did the laboratory test, the person went into rapid eye movement, REM. Okay? So the evidence leads us to say everybody dreams, not everybody remembers. In fact, in my experience, most people don't remember. And I have, and maybe it's a little self-serving, but I think it's true, I think it's evident, that people who dream, the reason they dream is because they at that moment in their lives, they have a better intuitive connection, and they're in a state where they're getting, like, that's a gift. Like, it's a gift to get your dream, and then the first gift is to have it working in you, then to remember it, which so many people don't, and then the next level is to become aware and know its meaning, right? That's where I come in a lot of times, because I'm helping you. You got a gift, okay? But it's confusing, you can't understand it, so then we have to unwrap it using the detective symbology. Okay. Rhonda says, I'm eating some Christmas peppermint chocolate my neighbor left me. Say, hey, having a party. Hope the noise doesn't bother you. Bribery. All of us right now want peppermint chocolate. That is so Christmassy. Darn, Rhonda, I don't got peppermint chocolate in the house, but that's all right. We appreciate it anyway. It's interesting with peppermint because you can imagine it. You feel me? You can imagine it like very easily. It's such a clear flavor and stuff, right? All right. Okay. I'm not going to go too much longer, but I'm going to answer this dream, which will take a few minutes. And then again, if you have questions, feedback, how you doing, all that good stuff. Okay. The reason that I go into deep breath, right, is because the nature of our mind is related to frequency. And dreams are a certain frequency. They're occurring. That's why we forget them so quickly. They occur in the frequency like theta, delta, etc., alpha, these levels that are slower. And then when we wake up, our brain starts to speed up. That's a faster frequency. So immediately we're pulling away from the frequency of the dream. That's why we forget it so quickly. But there are things we can do. One of them that I've taught is drinking water suddenly when you wake up. There's more to it, but drinking water and it rushes back into you. Also, getting up more slowly. Of course, having a notebook and a pencil or pen, a journal is always really good. That's just a few of them. So again, everybody dreams, which means everybody has this amazing power in them. Okay. So the dream is we could see the baby moving in an sorry. So okay, little context. So I'm gonna read the dream from Bunny if you have it on the screen, but I'm gonna read it aloud. It's a few parts. This is a dream that she had about this is a dream that she had about our friend Tanya. Okay, because we have another friend who's often with us. I spoke to her earlier today. She always comes to the Jeff Maher podcast. She's a legend. She has a military intellectual brain, and also at the same time she's like has a spirit brain. She always has these fascinating dreams. She's always like catching spiritual beings on her camera. Yeah, that's our homie. So our friend Tanya, I'm mentioning that because she's in the dream that Bunny is having. And again, we're in the same community generally. Okay, so we hang out, we have chats and stuff. Bunny says, okay, here's my recent interesting one. I dreamt I was hanging out with Tanya. It was as if we knew each other for a long time, not like just meeting in person. That's the first part, okay? So we know each other, but we haven't a lot of us haven't met in person, for example. We haven't even known each other for that long. Excuse me. This is another big one. Okay, here's a strong symbology. In the dream, she was pregnant. That's classic, okay? Anytime that something jumps out to you in the dream as a single element of a symbol, you should be like, that's an emotional meaning right there. Okay? That's an emotional meaning right there. So, but the pregnancy is typically, now sometimes there's a lot of premonitions, which is a whole nother mystery. I don't know why that happens, but I have my hypothesis. There's a lot of people who have premonitions of people who are giving birth. Okay, I don't think that's what's happening here. If it is, man, that would be trippy. We're like just busting out the news. And you said it's a recent one. Okay. All right. You know what I mean? Okay. So she's hanging out with Tanya. She knows her deeply, and Tanya's pregnant. So let's do piece by piece. When she's hanging out with Tanya and it seems like she knows her for a long time, that means that there is a spiritual connection. And that's what I think also from our fellowship, the type of fellowship that we had. I think that with some of you, when I talk to you, our relationship seems to go, like we get closer more quickly because it's a spiritual connection. And when you're talking about eternal life and eternal things, spiritual things, then heavenly things, then you establish a heavenly connection, which makes it like you're eternal beings. So it's quote unquote faster. Okay. Because again, she felt like she knew her faster because that is like how we know each other. We know each other energetically. Okay. Next part. Okay. So Tanya's pregnant. Okay. A little bit more. Tanya being pregnant, if we translate that symbolically, what that would mean is that Tanya is giving birth to something, okay? And it could be, based on the fact that this is a spiritual connection, that they're spiritual friends, it could be something spiritual. Okay? So if you want to understand what I mean, maybe a practical way besides babies, because I don't want to bring babies into it. I want you to see the metaphor, is a person could give birth to a business and dream about that. And like, oh, and it was a little baby and I had to take care of it. And it represents a business. You see? But it also could be like, and it has been often, it's a very deep time now, where a person giving birth is to a new version of themselves. Okay? Which again, notice how funny that is, because that's what it actually is. You have a baby, that's a new version of you. Okay? It's a mini me, people call it, right? Because that's what it is. But it's also like that symbolically. Right? I hope that makes sense. So keeping going on. We could see the baby moving in her belly. Wow, this is deep. So we took a moment to figure out what parts were sticking up. I said, look, it's booty cheeks. Funny. Love you, girl. All right, my bad. We could see the baby moving in her belly. We took a moment to figure out what baby parts were sticking up. Okay, let's just do that part first before we get to the more interesting part. So if we say we could see the baby moving, if we're doing this symbolically or emotionally, that means her behavior is showing, right? Her form, right? Her behavior is showing what's going on, that she has this, that she's giving birth. Okay. I am very curious and want to know if you, Bunny, if you shared this with Tanya yet. You know? Yeah. Because again, I don't know why, but one of the things, and this is where there's not a lot of interpretation stuff that I would be like this, what I'm about to say. But y'all got to understand, for some reason, it's been shown to me, like I've had clients, I've had friends, that women in particular, I've only had women do it, dream about their sister or a friend, etc., having a baby, and then it comes true. That happens fairly often. I don't know what the whole phenomena underlying it is, except that conception produces some sort of energy which gets picked up in the dream realm. Okay, so only because of that do I address that part, because normally I just go straight to the symbolism. All right, hopefully that's making sense. So I'm doing this as if it's I'm working, because the symbolism is always there, so I'm focusing on that. Now it gets fun. I said, look, it's booty cheeks. That's his butt. We were laughing. Next thing I know, okay. So interesting. Okay. I guess the booty thing. How would I translate that? It's certainly like a revelation, right? Like something being revealed, right? Like, oh, you notice this thing, and it's a playful revelation. So, this is a particular way. There's a lot of different emotions that could be associated with a birth, okay? But this one is like just joyful, having a good time. I was holding her unborn baby in my arms, still attached to her with the umbilical cord, but it wasn't weird to us. I was loving on him, telling him how great he was and that he was going to be, and how loved he was. Wow. That is fascinating. That is a fascinating dream. I mean, knowing y'all, and so before I do anything symbolic commentary, I want to say, isn't that interesting, right? How your mind can take a relationship you have with someone and then use their energy, their persona, etc., and bring it into your dream sphere, and then begin having like a conversation, etc., type of thing, right? Where it's talking to you again while you, that's one of the secrets. While you sleep, sleeping is a dress rehearsal for death. Okay, so holding her unborn baby in my arms. It's interesting that you use the term unborn baby, you know. But basically, if I'm interpreting this spiritually, now if y'all, you know, end up having some sort of revelation, then that's certainly there. But if that's not, then symbolically, this means you sharing in her sort of spiritual revelation, spiritual growth. Okay, it's not that much. Sorry, it's not that exciting. It's the interpretation, but it's interesting. And you got me on thinking two ways about it. Okay, let's go a little bit further. It wasn't weird to us in the dream. As weird as it sounds aloud, it's very normal to us. So sometimes when people make comments like that, one of the things that has taught me is that they're still telling more about the dream. Like you see, like Bunny just made this comment. She's like, it wasn't weird. Like, you know, despite everything we were doing, and I'm holding her baby and it was just born and all that, it didn't seem weird to us. That's one of the keys to understanding interpretation. Everything counts. Everything counts. So if you, in your mind, you remember, Bunny, you're like, it wasn't weird, that's a key part of the dream. I try to tell people that. Everything you remember. I used to joke around and be like, you're playing basketball against God and you go to take a jump shot, but you take it with your left hand instead of your right hand. You can't ignore that. There has to be a reason why you shot with your left hand. And now everybody's going to be like, what does that mean? That's just a general symbolic example. So it means something symbolically that it's not weird. And again, all this stuff basically is implying to me about the spirit realm. Okay? Why I say that is because in the spirit realm, natural relationships are expedited. Does that make sense? Was that too fancy? Like natural relationships are facilitated, they're sped up. Because again, you have people, just imagine if like you had an experience where like you almost died with a person. They say people bond with that, right? They feel super, super bonded. It's almost like that when you begin to have spiritual fellowship with someone. You feel a level of intimacy, which seems weird, maybe from the outside, like, why are you guys so close? You've only known each other for 2 months or something like that. But inwardly, it's not weird because it's a spiritual thing. Okay? At least that's my general sense. Let me take a breath. I also would like to introduce, as part of this experience, this character here. I have not named this my plant, which is a shame. How dare me? I'm thinking of a name. If you have an idea for the name, let me know. Could just be Michael. You know, I myself am the dream detective. Let me go to you guys. So Rhonda, now I'm like the reporter. Rhonda says, I'm eating some Christmas peppermint chocolate. Okay, she said that before we were talking. We were wanting to appropriate her chocolate. His butt was sticking up towards her ribs, if that means anything. Yeah, every detail, like even if it doesn't come to me, I'm telling you, and Rhonda could testify, and a few other people. Sometimes I have to like draw a line when people are just casually asking their dreams. Like I like to be helpful because it's a spiritual activity and I enjoy it. But sometimes I'm like, okay, sometimes I'll tell people like, we need to book a session or something like that. Because an intense dream requires you to go into it completely. So sometimes like I had a dream yesterday and the person sent me a paragraph and the result, my feedback was 5 pages. Okay. So it's, every detail counts is what I wanted to say, like to make that a point. Every detail counts. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit tired too. I'm gonna go a little bit more. I'll take a sip. Jay, my brother, it was good. Thank you for hanging out. I hope this was, stirred up some stuff. Sometimes when I have conversations with this, y'all, I have like a conversation with a person, and then that night they have super intense dreams. Or that week, but sometimes that literal night, like we'll just have a long super conversation, kind of like we're doing now, because we've been going for a while, for almost 2 hours. um, but like I had a friend of mine who had and I started to do his southern accent, because his name is Austin, he's from the South, Michael. um, but we had this deep talk, and then suddenly he had these super profound dreams. So maybe that'll happen to you. um, yeah, sweet dreams, brother. I'm gonna go for just another few minutes. I'm starting to get there, and maybe you guys are there too. Thank you for sharing that dream. Bunny, can you tell me if you did you say already? Oh, not yet. Okay, she didn't tell Tanya yet. Okay, whew, that's deep. I want to know what happens. I want to know what happens with that. To be honest, I'm going to confess something to you guys. Okay, and I'm always aiming to do these things in like a very respectful way. Like this dream, a little bit, it threw me off. I don't know how my interpretation of it was, because sometimes I'm super sharp and all that. Sometimes I'm like, generally I'm super sharp actually, but once in a while I'm kind of general. Like I'll tell you what the generally means. Excuse me. And this one, as I was interpreting it, which is we'll talk about this. Sometimes when people tell you interpret a person's dream, it reveals really, really personal information. Seriously. To the point where, as an interpreter, you would feel embarrassed. Yeah? No, you answered me. I wanted to know, Bunny, and hey, Straw. Hey, homie. I wanted to know if you had told Tanya about that dream. I was like, So, because as I was interpreting it in my mind, I definitely was like, so is this a premonition? What's going on? Okay. I'm not going to focus on that too much, because I don't know. It seems like I'm in somebody's business. But I'm at the same time telling you guys and having a little fun with it that is so. Yeah, Leonard, just to bring you up to date. So since they weren't having a live stream, it just occurred to me like, okay, let's go and have a live stream and we'll talk about dreams. But then Bunny shared a dream about Tanya having a baby, which again, I'm only comfortable saying that because we're talking about the dream realm, right? But at the same time as I was interpreting it, no, I don't have it set up yet. I don't, because I think I have to have my I think I have to so this is the first time I did it, and I did it super spontaneous, bro. Like I was just like, hey, I'm gonna hop on like at 8 o'clock. I was like, maybe people, I'm a bit of a softie, a little bit of sentimental spiritually. I'm like, like people may want to have some fellowship, and then at the last minute they found out they're not having fellowship. So we could talk about dreams. It's not the same as the show, but the reason I'm addressing it is because I am thinking, and a few of you seem like you want to be down with it, so I'll work on it, because I am going to do this again, God willing. Is I think I could just set up my Zoom, so then I would put the Zoom link in the chat, and then you could just click on it, like the same way we do with Jeff, especially if they're going to take a break for a few weeks. All right. So, okay. So before I address, because I'm up to Rhonda, did you write sauces on purpose? We could have another show like that. I definitely, but I mean, I don't know how Jeff and them would feel about it. Uh, Even though what I'm doing is different, but then if I start having all you guys on, um, yeah, it would be interesting. But I definitely think Jeff has a dream job, but I would never want to compete with him, obviously. Um, okay, so yeah, so I'll work on the call-in thing though, because minimally, what I think would be exciting, which we have done in the Discord and in other places, is to have people come on and tell me their dream on the spot, put some pressure on the dream detective, say, "Oh, I just realized I have my clothes over there, like a big mess." That's so unprofessional, right? Um, so yeah, and then we can do that. We can have conversations. People could ask questions, and then I don't know if people want to talk about weird stuff too. I think I would like to mainly focus on dreams and symbology. That's mainly what I want to talk about. Dreams most of the time, that's kind of a draw, but symbology is also, like I've been saying, especially with the Christmas spirit. You are a manger. You are a manger. Okay, so before I go back and I'm up to Rhonda's where I'm going to go, I'll say really quick that one of the fascinating things is that people tell you your dreams and they're telling you really personal info. Okay, so this was very public, so I like I think my conscience is good with saying an example would be on Saturday night. Jeff's wife asked me to interpret a dream in front of you guys. So most of you were there. She said, in the dream, I was, where is it? Okay. I guess we're going to stop doing this one. This is the dream. Hopefully that's right. Yeah. So she says, in the dream, a giant wave washed over me and dragged me out to sea. I screamed, but no one could hear me. I finally got to shore, and then I saved my cousin's baby. You like that? That's a nice, simple, that's a learner dream. This is a great dream to learn dream interpretation with. Okay? You can look at it, you can break it down into parts and get an intuitive sense of what these things mean. Now, again, what I'm saying, and I'm trying to do it quickly, but I'm going long, is I'm trying to show that when you share your dreams, you're sharing very, very personal information. I have a wonderful bedside manner. I'm a completely professional detective, so that's always good, even when it shocks people. Like before we go back to this, when I've interpreted people's dreams, not every time, but a number of times, they cry. That's how personal it is. Okay? So people are telling you stuff that could make them cry. Right? I've had people who, while I was interpreting, they told me that they had one person told me that they had a pornography addiction in their dream. Like their dream. They were like, oh, what does that mean? It means you have a porn addiction, except there was all these people around. So it became very weird. Another person's dream told me that they were thinking about divorcing their spouse. That's in my latest book. It's a person who's dreaming like they want to go with someone else, through all these choices and everything like that. So like when I told her, and because I have to call it like I see it, I got to tell you straight, right? Under the conscience of the spirit. When I tell you that, then the person cries because it's very intimate information. Anyway, when we were on Saturday night, we did this dream, and Mara's like, "Hey, here's the dream. I got dragged out. A giant wave came, dragged me out to sea." That means you feel overwhelmed. Okay? If you were in a place on a beach and a big ocean and a big wave came and took you, then you would be completely overwhelmed by that wave, by that water. Okay, so something is and waves are a standard symbology. They come up a lot. I've had wave dreams, and I know people who have had the same dreams as me about waves and tsunamis. So they are totally overwhelming. Okay, and then drag me out to sea is kind of like the stress. And for some of you, sorry, this is a repeat a little bit because we talked about it last night. So it pulls them out to a place where they don't know because it's so overwhelming. Now, here's where I want to just explain, rather than go into the whole thing, of how personal this gets, okay? Like, I want you to listen to this line, okay? I screamed, but no one could hear me. You guys feel me on that? Like how personal that is, because your dreaming mind is completely blunt. It does not it does not filter, right? It's occurring while you are sleeping. It expresses things exactly like you feel in a raw symbolic form. It's like, as deep as you can get, the symbols will speak like that. So the symbols are telling us, uh, Miss Reynolds, Mara, is feeling overwhelmed, dragged out to, like, like, again, just let's leave it at overwhelmed. She's expressing this feeling of being overwhelmed. She's screaming. But again, that's not literal screaming necessarily. It just means like you're expressing how overwhelmed you are, but no one around her, could be Jeff, could be the family, no one who's around her who's perceiving these things is really hearing it. Okay? You see how personal that is? Like you, and again, I'm only going to go so deep because, but just for the case study version of it, the case study of it is quite fascinating. You have Jeff and Mara are busy, busy, busy people. They put a video out every single day, right? For years. They are on point. They're working, interviewing, right? I've been on the show. So that's where this process, maybe that's again why partially that why they took a break today, this process of being overwhelmed. And she's expressing it, but it's not being heard because maybe they're so focused. Again, I don't know, but I want, this example is about showing how personal dreams can be. And just like the example we were looking at with Tanya. So by the way, most people would find this particular last part, I thought this was the most confusing part, like on instinct when I first looked at it and she said it. When they told me the dream and they started mentioning waves, I was like, okay, I've done waves plenty of times, no issue. Then I got to the bottom and I was like, okay, but here's what it is, okay? Here's the detective work. I finally got to shore. So getting to shore would mean getting back from being lost. So this means it's kind of like this is an experience. The whole being dragged out is like when you feel overwhelmed, but then you get back to yourself. It's also getting to success. Okay? When you're lost in water, it's being found again, is getting on shore. So she says, I finally got back to shore. Then she says, and I saved my cousin's baby. Sorry, that's the part that would confuse most people. Like, what? Then she saved her cousin's baby. But you just do it like this. Then she saved her cousin's baby. Okay. So a cousin is like a relative. Okay. So we got relative here. Okay. Because a cousin is not an immediate family member. They're like, you would think of them more as a relative, even though technically your brother or sister is, right? But that's your immediate family versus like this more distant family. A baby is a member of the family that's in need. Okay? So, put together, when she feels overwhelmed and everything, and she's expressing it, when she gets to this place of success, she feels like she'll be able to help her family. Okay? And so you can see how true these type of things are, is I think, and again, God guard my mouth, so I'm saying everything appropriately. Because there's nothing wrong here, but I just don't like to talk too personal, but so you can see how the details work. I would then imagine from this that Mara would send support to her family members in Lebanon, right? Because she's Lebanese, she has a Lebanese accent. I'm pretty sure she still has family members that live there. And when we talked about it, so by the way, all of this was done with her on publicly, similar to this. So that's the only reason why I'm comfortable bringing up. I just for my own professional status, I don't typically talk about people's dreams unless like we've either clarified that we're going to do that, or like they're asking me publicly, like, hey, Michael, can you interpret this, please? Okay, so that was a lot. Sorry, guys. I think that was a lot, but hopefully you got the sense of how personal your dreams can be. Like when people are just expressing them, sometimes I'm like, hey, it's cool and it's fun to like, you guys toss your dreams at me and I interpret them. But some of y'all are telling people really personal things, or you're you're revealing, like, again, if your heart is, you don't have nothing there, maybe that's fine. But even if you have a dream, like you tell me, Michael, and you say in front of a whole bunch of people, I had a dream that I was back in school, right? And I was trying to graduate. Like, you just told me and anybody who interprets that there's a goal that you're working on, and you like feel like you haven't gotten there yet because you haven't graduated. There's something you need to learn. You're back at school. Okay. I'm not going to go too much longer, but I'm really happy, guys, to be honest. Every Spirit fam, I'm very happy because I feel like I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I did this, how many people are going to come on, that sort of business. But I think people did come on. I think we've gotten some good fellowship. I think we had a great, you guys have been great with giving feedback. And I think we did some learning, which is, I think you guys can tell. Like, I have a spirit of a teacher, and I have a training. My background is in training, so that's why I think about like having these post-its and flip charts and that sort of business, because I was a trainer, I was an instructor. So I try to bring that element to dream interpretation. Let's go into the comments. You guys see the brain back there, by the way? Okay. So Jay saying good night. A man straw in the house. Okay. Susie, how you doing, Susie? They're asking Susie if she can do okay, y'all are still talking about that. I get it. Now you guys are saying, like, once I start bringing people on the show, you guys are really hungry for that. That would be fire. That would be so fun. I'll tell you this, like, one thing I'll definitely have learned from Jeff. Like, people will be like, hey, all right, so this is how I'm feeling. I'm like, no. I'm keeping everybody in line. Right? I want you guys to hold me accountable to that. People ain't just going to be talking about everything. We'll bring Vicky on. I'll grill him with an interview. Be like, Vicky, we want some ID. We want to take some of your blood samples. Okay, I'm kidding, obviously. We definitely need a juggler. We do have a singer, at least one singer. Okay. We might have a yoga person. I bet you, people don't know, guys. You don't know, but I'm only telling you this because I'm Spirit fam, and maybe one day I'll do it. But I definitely have a dance spirit. And I have some skills. People are always surprised. They're like, dang, Michael. And I say that's because God does it. Like, God is the amazement of. You want to know one of the amazing mysteries of life is like singing and music, right? Okay, sorry, I'm reading you on these two different screens. All right. Yes. Okay. Let me pull back because you guys are saying a whole bunch of stuff, which is good. I love it. All right. So, okay. We need a juggler and impersonations. I have a little bit of impersonations, but not great. When I was a kid, my brother, in quotes, my brother was quite good at impersonations, and he was always doing them. Like, there was Indian people that lived in our building, in our neighborhood. So we learned to do Indian early. We were like, take two tablet, call morning. And we lived around Russian people, so we started learning like Russian people, like, da, you good kid. Crazy, but good kid. But nowhere up to like where Steven is. And I probably just embarrassed myself a little bit. But some impressions I can kind of do. Like, I can do a little bit of, como se dice, like Latino or my uncle. You know what I'm saying, bro? Like, forget about it. These dudes are from the Bronx. They just want to know. Like, one time I made a video. Very few people have seen it, and I should make one where I was the person who was presenting, and I was doing my normal Michael persona. Like, okay, guys, this is how you got to look at this stuff when you're analyzing it. And then I also did my other self, like my uncle talking to me, like, yo, excuse me, could you just tell us the meaning already, though? Like he was interrupting me. It was going back and forth. That was fun. All right. Hopefully you guys feel me on that. Okay. So yeah, definitely impersonations. What else we got? Straw can juggle 3 balls, and that's no double entendre there. And knives too. Okay. Wow, that would be impressive. Like the juggling the knives. Even though I love with the juggling when Steven juggles the orbs, I always really enjoy the visual effect of that. And then he's a good juggler too. But everybody needs some healthy competition. Then Rhonda says, "Oh wait, that's comment is for Bunny, but she's talking about her dreams." And I think Rhonda, I probably should read Rhonda's comment where she talked about us. Yes, okay. So, and again, only because she wrote this, Rhonda says, I cried after both of my sessions with us, which again makes sense because when you're evolving, you go visit those places. Sorry, I was thinking about the basement. You go visit those places within yourself. You stir up all sorts of stuff, all sorts of new, like you're looking at life again and again, or at least that's how deep your dreams can go. They certainly are poking at whatever's truly inside you. Um, yeah. Yeah, we were talking. Yeah, peeing dreams are brilliant. Like it sounds a little crude, but peeing dreams are brilliant because they are the perfect way of representing urgency. So like a little kid could do that. So you're like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom really bad, and you can think about that feeling when you've had to go to the bathroom really bad, and you're like, oh yeah, that's urgency. Mm-hmm. If I want to teach somebody, that's urgency. Okay. Um, so Leonard is talking about don't make me calling in with his shorts. Don't make me what would they call that? Screen you guys. I'll start screening you guys. I'll be like, you're not coming on until I make sure you got a shirt on. Yeah, Naked Boy. I forgot about him. The legend. For those of you who don't know, we did have a guy who called. We had a guy who used to have no shirt, and he just used to be in bed, lying back, and we used to make, like he was talking fine, but he would make jokes, and we would be like, "Bro, you're not gonna wear a shirt." Yeah, we had some fun. Yeah, I like that idea, Jeff Mara party. But you see, okay, that's the thing for me. Like, it's so real that I really wouldn't. It wouldn't be a parody. It would be real, you know. Um, but again, I'm thinking of it more with these particular subjects, which range from dreams, visions, and general symbology. General symbology. Okay, let's go down. Shout out to Vicky. Um, Shout out to Luke. I don't know if I should confess to that, but I'll tell you, um, I try to never block anybody because I did it once. Like somebody was really annoying me and I blocked them. And now I kind of wish that I didn't block them because I don't know how to unblock people, you know? And I don't know. I know that we talked about this. Now we're getting really random. We're getting off of dreams. We talked about this on a chat in Discord, and people a few times have mentioned people who are obnoxious. So I don't know. It's just a spiritual subject. I'm a little bit of a tangent, but I want to tell you what my thought is. My thinking is that generally, unless it's something where you are firmly convinced, and even then, I don't know what that means. Like, what's the reason? But if you can't handle it, yeah, block the person. But if it's just that it annoys you, meditate on that annoyance. Meditate on why you get annoyed. Like I sound like an Eastern type teacher here, but that's really what my spirit says about it. That if someone bothers you, that if Clark Kent constantly being a bit preachy, if that's bothering you, then it's an opportunity to recognize a trigger, like people say, right? Like something pushes your buttons, because I know, I'm speaking from experience, that I've had that experience where, like, oh, this is annoying me with this person. Like, he used to annoy me. And then what I feel like is I just accepted him as he is. Like, he's in that state right now. And something interesting happens. I'm not saying like everybody has to have the same approach, but when I accepted him as he is, our relationship shifted a little bit. Like, he annoyed me before, right? But then, even though I would call myself Christian, I quote scriptures and all this stuff, but the way he does it is like, I found that annoying. And then I went on and I talked about dreams and some other stuff. And afterward, he was like, hey, Michael, thank you, man. Like, thank you. That was really good. I appreciated that. Right. And in that moment, I saw a different part of him. He was being really like, his thank you sounded sincere and humble as much as you can read it, and I also felt like, now every time we saw each other in chat, it was like, hey, what's up? And he's like, hey, what's up, detective? Y'all feel me? So this would be something like the mystery which says love never fails. 1 Corinthians 13, love never fails. That if we keep applying love, just or even think of it as stay in that state, let not our state get thrown off of there, that power is an overcoming power. Right? So again, that's a little bit of spiritual mystery there. But let's go back to your comments. Okay. So we're asking about yoga poses. I noticed Susie's very she's asking about yoga poses. Maybe you should do those. Can you do that one where you go upside down? I can do that, but yeah, I mean, I think I can do some of them. And I think it's good to do yoga. People, some spiritual people or Christians question it, but the main thing I'll tell you guys, again, I'm just sort of chilling and tangent here, that I learned about yoga that summed it up, my understanding, more than people talking all these things about it, is if you can learn in yoga to hold a position and to be calm and breathing and just relaxed while you're doing the tree position, right? While you're doing this thing where you turn like that, right? If you can learn to stay relaxed, then when you go into the outer world, that power to stay relaxed and to stay in a spiritual state stays with you. It's like a martial art of the spirit. You're learning, you're building into yourself, building calm, which is the same thing that happens with repeated types of meditations and prayers. Like if you build calmness into yourself, then when you go out, then that accompanies you. Okay. I'm getting into a lot of stuff today. So we were talking about, we have our juggler. We talked a little bit on impersonations. Definitely snacks. Y'all already know how I am with the snacks. Tapioca, anything with coconut. I have on my gratitude list for Thanksgiving, right? On my gratitude list for Thanksgiving, I put like all this deep stuff. Like, I'm thankful for dreams. I'm thankful for caterpillars. I'm thankful for you guys. Right? Like, you guys made my list. You did. And then I said also stuff with coconut, which kind of doesn't devalue the list. I promised. Okay, it's just stuff with coconut can be very delicious and natural. All right. Yeah. Okay. So talking about comments, snacks. I am looking forward to hearing about your snacks. Oh, applesauce. Definitely. I think I finally caught up with you guys. Okay, coconuts. Okay. I'm gonna go a little bit longer. I would like you guys to, tell me. I don't want to overgo, but yeah, it's 10:30. I'm definitely will finish by 11. I don't know that I'm even going to stay that long, but don't get me wrong. I think all of you who know me, and I may do maybe just some chilling if we're chilling a little bit. Those of you who know me, you guys already know that I can talk, right? That I can chat. That's one of my things. Okay, so Bunny says, and by the way, amongst whatever else, drop whatever deep stuff you want to say, but please feel free to continue to mention snacks. I don't know, I'm just in that snack vibe. Rhonda got it started a little bit, when she was talking about peppermint chocolate. Again, that's so Christmassy. The coconut. Yeah, I'll tell you guys why I've been having these coconuts, because I'll talk about that in a second. The coconut, oh my gosh, I had this coconut date, right? Now, this is going to be like somebody watching the show is like, what is this about? I had these coconut dates. They're so good. Like, they're so fresh. Or they're just a date, and then you have coconut sprinkled on them. It's really good. That's really good. I'll show you. I took a picture of it once and put it in Discord. I don't know what's wrong with me, but I did take a picture. And yes, Susie, they are like, and you feel good about eating it because you're like, God made this. This is not even a human being, right? This is like I always say, all the fruits and vegetables and stuff that came preloaded onto this planet. Come on, y'all. God made strawberries. Come on, like, where people don't want to give him credit. Okay, so you guys were saying, yeah, coconuts. The Belafonte song "Coconut" keeps going off in my head. Okay, yeah. So again, but please be creative in your snacks. Okay, I don't want to hear like potato chips or a candy bar. We want some preferably healthy, but you know what? Actually, see, it doesn't have to necessarily be healthy, because some things, like, for example, now I got y'all thinking about French toast. Because I got you guys thinking about, sorry, I'm literally getting a little red. I got y'all thinking about French toast, and French toast might not be, like in pancakes, might not be super healthy, but they still are, like, they're worthy snacks to talk about, right? I don't know about you guys, but my association with pancakes, which was my association with that comfort food, which is interesting because you could use pancakes. I'm going to keep it going with the dream symbology. You could use pancakes in a dream, and because they have this type of association, they would represent that to you. So pancakes, French toast, and all that type of stuff is comfort food. It brings you comfort. It produces a certain reaction in the brain, and and the smell of it brings back the olfactory sense. It kicks off your olfactory sense, which is associated with memory. So it brings you back to your childhood. I definitely associate pancakes with Saturday mornings when my mother would come and bring me pancakes. And then I would, eat them and watch Saturday morning cartoons, which I guess is dating myself a little bit. All right, so what you guys got? So French toast is wonderful. I like the way Straw said it. Like, God made French toast. Genius. Okay, especially I'm not gonna go too far with this, but since y'all are just flowing with it, I've never done this on a stream before, but I'm gonna say, put a little banana, you know what I mean? Maybe some fresh fruit in there along the way. A little butter, yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. Some of the things are veggie chili is also, it's a totally different, that's dinner. Okay. But yeah, chili is another classic food. Oh, coconut syrup might be good. All right. I'm taking a break. And certainly, again, I have to think about the symbology, right? Like, we just talked about the symbology of pancakes. We could talk about not that I'm going to, but I'm saying you could think about the symbolism of French toast. Like, hey, when I think about that, what does that symbolize? What emotions get kicked off in me? Okay, I'm going to take a little break, and then I'm going to do my last little section. You saying croissants? I guess I asked for this, so I don't know. You guys might, sometimes chats get into these vibes. They just keep going and going no matter what. one of the things I learned, one one of the things I definitely have learned is that, like, all of us, not just me, all of us, we kind of do this thing where we get into our conversations. That's, I think, why I wanted to have the live stream to some extent, because for me, fellowshipping with you, and I'm getting all sappy here, fellowshipping with all of you is just as much part of it, sometimes more than like whatever I'm seeing on the screen, which now, I mean, by knowing you guys, I know that actually happens, that some of you mute certain parts, you know. There's been a lot of confessions, so it's been funny. But good. It's been revealing. Okay. Oops. Okay. Now get out of here. All right. Sorry, when I said get out of here, I was talking to the dialogue box. There's an inside reason I thought of French toast. Okay, let's not go there then. For breakfast, buckwheat pancakes. Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. No, too risque. Too risque. I'm rated PG-13. I don't know. Okay. All right. So I want to do an example. You can share that in the Discord. Amen. All right. So cheers, everybody. Thanks again for joining me. I'm going to do my last little section here. I'm going to go back to dreams. Any questions you have or anything, let me know. This is a fascinating subject, though. Okay, I know what I wanted to do, that I went on the show to do, the time, and also, sorry. Someone said, what do we need to do the show the way Jeff does it? I should know by next week. All that you need to do is connect the live stream to your Zoom, right? PG-11, amen. All you need to do is connect it to your Zoom. So I just need to know how to do that, which I don't think is anything very complicated. And then I can put the Zoom link in the chat, boom, which is very easy. You guys are cracking me up. You're welcome, Bunny. Okay, and in this last section, let's get deep into it. Let's get deep into this mystery. You can put your questions. Yeah, that's a good idea. You can put some of your the books in. I'm gonna have that actually. And one of the things I often like to share is also I have a one-page website. All right. Hey Dana, good evening. I have a one-page website. It's not the type of website where it's like, there's all these things for you to do. It's really a digital portfolio. So when you click on it, it opens and it's like, it all has dreams. It has examples, samples I've done, feedback, my books, links to make sessions with the dream detective. It's pretty cool. But yeah, that's a good idea, Susie. Thank you for that. I definitely will include the books and stuff like that. So yeah, by the way, so let me talk about that for a minute. So I'm talking about that for a few minutes, and then I'm going to go into what I was teaching the time that I went to teach something. And it's called my Strikingly page. And I'm sorry, I'm going all over the place. It's called my Strikingly page. So it's the Dream Detective. Again, I'll have the link right now. I really actually have it somewhere around there, but I don't want to get too mixed in with what I'm doing. So I'm going to, let's bring this thing back. Let's see if we can bring this thing back. I wanted to explain the principles of the house and understand how the symbols work together. Okay, we'll have that. So I'll divide this into two sections. So we were answering here. Okay. So I think I was mentioning, we were talking about people coming on. We had said, that I should be able to, I'll be able to do that next week because I have Zoom, and people can come on and we can really kind of keep it general. Thank you for joining us, Dana. It's good to see you. Yeah, decided to do a live stream since Jeff wasn't doing it. I probably will do this once a week. Oh, and that's interesting. Again, I'm skipping around too much. I'm sorry, guys. Let me go straight because you guys are actually talking about dreams. Dana is a very intense dreamer, right? She has amazing dreams, really, really amazing dreams. Like if you tell me your dream once and it's staying in my mind, yeah, you know. Um, so Dana, guys talking. Okay, here's Rhonda's question. Okay, dream question. When you have a lot of dreams, like days in a row, lots of information, how do you not get overwhelmed and actually get something out of your dream? Okay. So, first of all, I guess one of the principles, it's not the most comfortable one, but learning to be comfortable with what you get out of it, okay? Like what you remember and so on. Even if you're aiming to remember, even if you're writing them down. One of the simplest things you can do when you have a lot of dreams is try to gander or look over the collection of dreams from a big perspective without going into all the crazy details and see if there's any pattern. Okay. So I had a friend of mine who said that she was always having dreams about going home. I always give this example. They were always having dreams about going home. So there was many, many variations of it, but that was always the goal. And this is the famous case where I said to her, tell me, now notice how simple this is. Tell me in one word what you associate with that home that you're going to in the dreams. And she said, safety. And I was like, oh, okay. So this means you don't feel safe. You've been having this type of dreams for several months. You haven't felt safe for several months. The dream of the house was the house you were in as a child. That means you're connecting to the child part of yourself, like the need to feel safe and secure. So focus, Rhonda, on the major symbols. Like when we go through a dream, this is for everybody because I like to give nice practical information. Like when you see the dream, you'll notice some major symbols jump out. Whichever ones jump out of you, try to like categorize them. What I do if I'm doing a client, I'm writing them. Usually people type them and send them to me, and then I break them down line by line. But when I'm like I used to just write my dreams in books. Like I used to write them in notebooks like this, and then like I would circle them. I'd look back at it and I'd circle the things that stood out to me. And then I'd focus and I'd be like, what does that major symbol mean? Okay. So that's a way that you would get stuff out of it. You look at the major big symbols and see what's going on there. Am I flying? Is there a dragon in it? Am I in a maze? Is there a snake? Right? Is there some creature? Is there something that's scaring me? Right? Another good way to think about it is pay attention as a dream detective to the parts where the energy was very strong. Right? The energy was very strong in the dream. So then you paid attention to that part. Right? I'm telling you, I know this will sound strange and it's hard to like confirm, but there's a part in you when you ask that will teach you. Because part of what I'm doing is beyond me, right? It's there's a being in me that can figure it out. That's what I've learned, and sometimes it just knows it immediately. Likewise, that same being is in you, right? That's how you know when I do it. You're like, oh yeah, that makes sense, Michael, because you do know it already too, right? It's just again, it's an issue of the language. Okay, going back to snacks again. Okay, now you said I wonder what that means, or maybe that Dana hasn't been dreaming that much. Be careful because you might be revealing your deepest secrets. Yeah, we talked about that. You know, I don't know what I want to say about Dana's dreams, except most people, most like clients and just people who are sharing in general, they are experiencing a lot of times, like 90% of the times, they're experiencing stress. and that stress is producing a certain reaction. That stress can be like a mundane one, like stress at work, stress in a relationship, or it can be spiritual. So it's like you're growing spiritually, and that's producing a whole bunch of dreams. Now, Dana's dreams are just, it's interesting because, like, looking at her dreams just made me, and not really going hardcore on the interpretation, just giving her insights according to, what she was presenting. They're very, like, energetically, they're almost like they look like they're expressing excitement, which is another energy that produces dreams, but rather than stress, right? I have to go to the bathroom, that's stress. Okay, I'm flying and I have one wing is made out of feathers and another one is made out of iron, and like that's not like a type of stress. Right? So yeah, she's had a lot of really interesting ones. So you guys talking about the universe collapsing? You're welcome, Rhonda. By the way, so Rhonda just answering about getting value and from your dreams. Rhonda, that's such a great question. That's like really, really good, sis. As a student, like that makes me like, yes, right? Because you're figuring that out. And I had a friend of mine who, her name is Kaz, the video game psychic, right? Shout out to Kaz. She's amazing. And she has so many dreams. Whoa, geez. Like she had in her phone, when I met her in person the first time, she had like 300 dreams on her phone. Now, thankfully, she wasn't like, hey, Michael, you're going to have to pay me for a year if it's 300 dreams. yeah, that's her name, video game. Kaz, the video game psychic. She's the one who I mentioned, Leonard, who's a game developer. And she also like used to go on YouTube and play games and stuff like that. She's a super, super sweetheart. She's super hilarious. And yeah, I actually, we had a very good connection. So we actually met in person in New York, which was very cool. And she is a very fascinating dreamer in terms of like almost like what Rhonda's describing now. She has a lot. She has a lot of dreams, like so many. Yeah. So you're welcome, you guys. Scorpions. I'm not going into it, but that's fascinating symbology. Fascinating symbology. She's on YouTube with her pretty self. I mean, she's on YouTube, but and also Instagram as video game psychic, but she hasn't been posting a lot lately. But you'll see plenty of posts. But she got a new job. Yeah, I think that's fine for me to say. She got a new job, so she's focusing, I think, on work right now. But yeah. So it's very fascinating because she's a person where, like, when I first saw her handle, so I'm kind of revealing about myself, I was like, video game psychic. I'm like, I don't know about that. But I've learned to not judge people on the basis of labels. Like even meeting her was an example of that, because like then when I listened to her, I was like, yo, she is deep. She is deep. She's describing real stuff. And that happens a lot, even when I go on the when I listen to the show. Right. Okay. So I've been going through your comments, and I'm going to, again, a few more minutes. I'm going to talk about this idea of that I've been talking about lately. You guys tell me if you understand this. I've been talking about the idea of hieroglyphs. Okay. So that all of your dreams are hieroglyphs. Okay. They're like, like Egyptian, like you find in the pyramid and so on. Right. You're seeing these almost like an image, and it really is an image. It's a piece of imagination. And each piece is its own like word, it has its own meaning. Like a scorpion would mean something, right? It's not just a creature. It implies more than that by itself. Okay? A scorpion implies something that can bite you, something that can hurt you, or something maybe I guess we would say sting you, which by the way, symbolically, stinging is different from biting. They're different emotional experiences. You guys vibing me on that? A sting is a type of something that would happen in a dream and it represents a certain emotion, and a bite is a different one, right? Everything counts. That's how precise this your energetic self is that's expressing your dreams. So, okay. So my goal as I close out is I want to show you how you take different pieces of the hieroglyphs, right? Again, just pieces of your dream, and then they work together to form a meaning. And it's actually pretty straightforward because it forms a meaning the same way that multiple words coming together form a meaning. Okay? And then you guys can maybe give me a little bit of feedback. Getting stung from a scorpion would be very emotional. That's how you know if you dreamt about it, it's a very emotional experience. I can even interpret that. Someone getting stung by a scorpion, if they dream about that, that means that something that happened in their life really hit them. Like it's shocking, like like the same thing that would happen if a scorpion hits you, and it was considered. They would consider it a small vicious act because that's what a scorpion would be when it stings you. It's small and everything. It's not some big thing, but it's vicious and it hurts you, right? So that would be the symbology there. Again, notice how profound that symbology is and how deep you can get just into that. Animals are amazing, symbols. So yeah, getting stung by a scorpion. Yes, yeah. So Straw says, I've never actually been stung by one. I'm just thinking about it as emotional. Yeah, and again, remember, one of the techniques is if you want to understand what the dream is saying, just think to yourself, how would I feel if that happened to me? Whatever it is in the dream, right? Again, stuck in a maze, stung by a stingray, or stingray. That's another dream. Sorry, stung by a scorpion. How would you feel? Then just translate that into emotions, right? Like, oh, if something stung me, I'd feel hurt. In real life, I'd be physically hurt. And then it would produce that, what you were saying, the emotional. So it translates purely as emotion in the dream realm. Okay, hopefully I'm not making that too confusing. As I do my last examples, one of the things I will ask you guys is, if it seems like what we've talked about today, I have made it relatively clear. I think you guys have given good feedback in terms of that, but also, hey, yeah, we like the idea of bringing people on. So, as I keep doing this, God willing, we can incorporate that. First, dreamers, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, you can tell me if did this work? Did this help? Was this useful? Was this a beneficial fellowship? You don't have to, big up my head, but I think that's what the case and what the feedback I've gotten is. I've gotten the love and stuff like that. So just confirming that. So, in other words, like, hey, talking about dreams or like keeping it pointed, right? Keeping it pointed. When we talk about symbology, I guess in the future, we'll have that as a clear example to contrast with. All right. So here's what we're teaching. The symbols are the hieroglyphs, and then we're going to put them together. So I said on my last video when I was teaching about the house and the rooms, I said, hey, what happens if you go upstairs? If you're in the house, you enter the house, you dream you're in the house. Now you can do it with me in your imagination. We're in the house. Imagine it's kind of dark, right? You somehow know where things are, and then you go upstairs. That's the first hieroglyph, is a person going upstairs, okay? So that means going to a higher level. It sounds crazy, but it's true. You can once you think it through, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what it means. It means going to a higher level. Typically, it also implies going to a more intellectual level, going to a level where you have more perspective, which would be less emotional. So we have that first hieroglyph. You go upstairs. Now, what happens if they go upstairs and look out the window? Okay, this means they're going to a higher place in their mind, and then they're applying that to their perspective, because our windows represent our perspective on life. They are, as it were, the windows of our soul, what we are looking out of, perceiving this outer world. So it's perspective. Windows represent, we talked about windows earlier. Windows represent perspective. If you say it's bad to have old-fashioned windows, which I tossed out way earlier, that means it's bad to have old-fashioned ways of thinking or looking at things. Sorry, I'll say that again. Having, like, a person had a dream. They said, they told me it was bad to have old-fashioned windows. That means it's bad to have, that person received the message that it's bad to have old-fashioned ways of looking at things, right? So again, I go upstairs. That's hieroglyph 1. There's only going to be 3. I go upstairs. I look out the window. That's the next hieroglyph. We combine them. And let's say I look out at the backyard. Okay, so you see those 3 symbols? Upstairs, out the window, looking at the backyard. The first symbol tells me, this is how precise this science is. The first symbol tells me you're getting to a more intellectual part of yourself because you went upstairs, a more objective part. Okay, it's a different part of the brain. Then it's telling me you have perspective because you're looking out the window. Then you're telling me that you're looking at something that you've put behind you, because that's what your backyard symbolizes. Okay, it symbolizes something you put behind you. Right? It's not like the basement where you buried the thing in your childhood. It's what it put behind you. Okay, so you can see how those 3 symbols, they have individual meaning, but then they come together to tell you what's happening in the emotions and by implication in the heart, in the life of the dreamer. Whew! Did that check? Did that vibe? Did that pass the test? I hope so. It's an important part for people to understand how all these things end up working together, because otherwise it's very confusing. Like sometimes people can pick out the symbols, and this again is shout out to you, Rhonda. When you're working on your dreams, there's 2 parts, right? That's what I just showed. There's the part where you look at the symbols and then putting the symbols together. And putting the symbols together seems hard, but it's actually a bit easier than it is. You said it's hard for me to follow so much so fast. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to explain that principle one more time, even though, again, I think I kind of did it, but I don't feel like it was a home run explanation. But I did establish that each piece, right, the going to the second floor, all this is occurring in the house, which means the soul of the dreamer, or you can think of it as the dreamer. The dreamer is the house. So when different things are happening in the house, it means the dreamer is transitioning and representing different states. So if he's going upstairs, then yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is always less abstract. And see, okay, here's where the abstraction actually gets solved. I say this, and I've learned this. So sometimes when I just explain the symbology, people are like, "Oh, I get it. Right? I get where a bathroom. I get the basement. I get right." But when it really comes to life is when people are like, "Oh, that's about your relationship, or that's about you, a friend of yours who did something to you, or that's about an addiction that you have, or that's about a bad habit." Like that's when it becomes most clear that this is a language representing what's happening in you, right? The first level is the symbology. And yeah, but I just wanted to explain the symbology just so this part of it, even though it's a bit abstract, so people could get the idea of the individual pieces of your dream and then putting those pieces together, right? I look out a window, that implies I have perspective. And I'm looking out at a backyard, so my perspective is what's behind me. See? Again, window, let's just look at those 2 parts. Window and backyard, okay? Okay, what do all these green dragons may or may not have? So a green dragon I'll tell you, the hardest dreams to interpret typically are ones that are super, super short, because when you have a little bit of a dream, it gives context. Either way, it can be. However, you're just looking at the raw symbols. So, for example, the question I would ask myself if I had a dream would be like, first of all, what is a dragon? Okay. And especially if I'm having this often. So, a dragon is a creature that would destroy me. Okay. It's like a particular, and now again, it doesn't matter how what the dreamer's associations are with the dragon. Like if they think of dragon, and this might be how you think of it and how we could all think of it, there's an element of phantasm in there. Okay. So this is a fantastic creature that flies. It can go in the sky and it has this ability to breathe fire. That's a very particular symbol. Your dream anything by accident. So if it's picking a dragon, all of the dragon mythology comes with that. Okay. For example, doing a fire breathing, being a fire breathing dragon. Maybe it's a cute little pseudo dragon. The dragon being green would be whatever we associate with green. Okay. So typically people associate stuff with green like money, or they associate going forward, right? Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking of Game of Thrones either. Or Game of Thrones also. Okay. I think I'm gonna pause there. Um, Hopefully I fairly explained. Leonard always holds me to the fire, but I agree with you, Leonard. In my experience, people have the most sort of like, whoa, when we have a person who we're interpreting. But hopefully in this series, I've showed that people have dreams, a lot of them, about going home. That is super important for us. I want to kind of end with that spiritual message. People dreaming about going home is super important for us as beings, because in a way, this place is an imitation of our home. Okay. So us wanting to go home here is because it represents a certain feeling, comfort, etc. But this is a temporal home, and we have an eternal home that we are on a journey on, right? So that is also what is reflected in the deep symbology of dreaming about going home, right? It's getting back to our true self, right? So I'm going to look through your comments a little bit. Yeah, I think most of you said this works. But any ideas, any feedback, feel free to let me know. I'm going to roll up the screen a little bit. Also, just want to express gratitude for tonight, for getting to talk about dreams, for getting to share with you guys, for you guys feeling comfortable enough to come join in, make a whole bunch of comments, ask questions, think about dreams, talk about dreams, and a whole bunch of other stuff, including snacks and all sorts of wonderful things. Amen. I love this Emperor Scorpion, by the way. Again, I know I talked about that, but when you put terms together like that, they're so deep. Like I had a friend who dreamt that he bought a king cobra. Here's a one more for you that is very, very nice. My friend dreamt that he bought a king cobra and it kept trying to kill him, right? That's because he started having a pornography addiction. And that's how his mind conceptualized it, as a king cobra, a poisonous snake that he bought and was trying to keep compartmentalized, but it kept escaping and trying to kill him. That's why. So I only bring it up because that's also in my current book. Because you mentioned the Emperor Scorpions, right? You guys talking about getting stung. Okay. Talked about the green dragons. Thank you, Maureen. I'm planning on doing this next week, probably at the same time, and I'll probably try to let people know. Yeah, and like I said, we'll work on the the Zoom and all that sort of business. But I definitely will have a plan, and we'll have some snacks. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. I started Dana at 8:05 ish or so, like 8:05, 8:10 or so, and then it took us a little while to get sort of really into it. Yeah. Thank you all for sharing. I'm gonna probably eat a little bit, but I don't know if you guys end up staying up. If you're in the chat or if you're in the Discord, then maybe I'll see you there. I appreciate you all so much. Shout out, Spirit Fam. Much love, much grace be with you. I do pray that you continue to have powerful dreams, that you understand your dreams, that your dreams change your life. Amen. It is so. Good night. Good night. Good night. Snack.